All right, folks. Another episode of Street to Strategy. We are back. So happy New Year to everybody. This is going to be my first episode of the season. Kind of a different format this go around too. This is going to be my first firefighter. So I wanted to let the folks know if you guys have anybody, prior law enforcement, prior firefighter, prior EMT, prior military, anybody that's been of service to others, I'm willing to listen to their stories. Contact me, reach out to me, and let's get them on the show. All right, let's get to it. So today's guest is a man whose life was shaped not by ease, but by responsibility, resilience, and an unshakable commitment to serving others. Born in Toledo, Ohio in 1969, he was the youngest of three brothers raised by parents who taught him the value of work, humility, and showing up when it mattered. When his family moved west to California, his father's career in the restaurant business brought them to Stockton and eventually to Lodi, where our guest would come of age. At Tokay High School, he wasn't just an athlete, playing baseball and football all 4 years. He was also a storyteller, sharpening his skills as a sports writer for the local newspaper and yearbook. Life changed forever when tragedy struck at just 18 years old. His father died suddenly of a heart attack, and with that loss came adult responsibilities far too early. He became a caretaker, a protector, and a steady presence for his mother during a time when his family was unraveling. Those years forged the character that would later define his career. College took him to San Joaquin Delta, where a simple conversation with a reserve sheriff sparked a calling that would change his life. Fire service wasn't just a job, it was a purpose. From volunteering 1 day a week to chasing full-time positions across California, his persistence paid off, and in 1996, he joined the Visalia Fire Department. Over the next decades, he rose through the ranks, engineer, captain, training captain, battalion chief, earning the respect of his peers and twice being named Firefighter of the Year. A lifelong student, a teacher of firefighting survival, and a leader who lived by one belief: if you love what you do, you will never work a day in your life. Beyond the firehouse, he was a coach, a mentor, and a Red Cross volunteer, and a steady hand in moments where lives were shattered. Today, he joins us to talk about the calls that never leave you, the fires that changed a city, and the human cost and honor of service. This is a conversation about courage, consequences, and what it truly means to run towards the fire. Let's welcome my guest, Darrin Hughes. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, Jay Mac. Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year. Man, every time I give one of these, man, it's just a lot to get out. All right.
Appreciate it.
Take us back to Toledo, Ohio. What do you remember most about your early childhood and your parents?
Well, what I remember most, obviously my dad was in the restaurant business and worked long days. I mean, from sun up, sundown.
Chain? Was it a chain?
It was restaurant chains. He ran pizza business. He ran a pizza place back in Ohio, kind of like the Pizza Huts kind of thing.
Yeah.
Managed those. And, just when you're in management, obviously you work, extended hours and stuff like that. So he worked long days. We'd spend a lot of times out around restaurants and stuff. But going back to that, it was just a different weather change. That's what I remember most as a kid. I was young then. So, snowstorms, playing, having snowball fights with my oldest brother and just going outside and doing things, But, like I said, it was kind of short-lived. I was young when we moved over.
Got it.
So, it was probably in third grade when we actually started coming west.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So your father's work in the restaurant business eventually brought your family to California. How did that move shape you?
It was good because before we actually got to California, we stopped. I mean, we were in Topeka, Kansas for a year too.
Oh, wow.
As he was in that, yeah. So we kind of gradually moved our way west. But when we got all the way west, it was from Kansas to California, and just a good change. I mean, obviously, I was young, so going to school, but in elementary, so it really didn't matter. Didn't have much to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just following his job. Coming to California, like I said, we made a short stop in Modesto and then ended up in Stockton. So,
Got it.
With restaurants and stuff that he moved back and forth from. So, anyway, it was easy. It wasn't too hard to adjust. Started going to an elementary school. We lived in North Stockton. That's why we actually got bused to the city of Lodi. So we went to
Stockton.
school.
Well, you know what, man? So this is so funny. I didn't know those areas.
Yeah.
When I went to work for Amtrak Police.
Oh, there you go.
I was in Modesto, Merced, Stockton. Something about those trains. They always end up in the worst parts of town, dude. Dude, I was involved in some wild stuff in those towns.
Yes.
Yes. What kind of man was your father, both at work and at home?
Just what I remember, I mean, obviously teaching me, just what hard work ethic, long hours, obviously put him in. But with that, he was good with people. And I think that's kind of a trait that, you get into, like you've talked about, and you've had some guests on before that, customer service, right?
Big time.
Restaurant business is one of those businesses where you're dialing into people. They put the order in and they want the order just the way they put it in to come out.
Yeah.
Right. So, he was good with people. He managed people well. Watching him, and at home, he was just the caretaker. I mean, he'd come home after a late night and just kind of basically, would chill out, watching TV and we'd eat a late meal. He'd eat between, during the day and stuff like that, but it kind of caught up with him. And that's where obviously, he was a smoker, so he smoked. And then, the lifestyle of working long hours and stuff like that, then coming home, kind of sedentary. He was a little bit overweight. And I think those were all key factors to.
How old was he when he passed?
46.
Man, that's young,
very
brother.
young, very young.
That's young.
Yeah.
As the youngest of three brothers, what role did you naturally fall into growing up?
Well, of three, I had my next oldest brother was special needs.
Okay.
So in between my oldest brother and myself, and I was basically the youngest of three. I was lucky to be had.
Got it.
To be honest, because after having a special needs child, it's really tough, and it was tough on my mother as a child. So I remember that. But growing up, it was the separation was between my oldest brother and myself, and we, just kind of, we really leaned on each other. He played ball a lot. He was, came out, played football a lot. He wasn't a baseball player. He was just a big dude. He was built differently than I was, so kind of
because you're like a short fire plug. Yeah.
My wife says I might have been orphaned or something like that because I didn't fit in the family. But he took on my dad's traits, and he was more of a lineman kind of thing, and I was a little more different, built differently. But we just got close and hung out together and stuff until kind of when we got into high school, or he got into high school age and stuff like that. That's where we started.
What's the age difference?
We're only about, and he's passed since.
Okay.
Yeah, the oldest brother's passed also. So he was about 6 years older than I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
How did your relationship with your brothers, Chris and Kevin, influence who you became?
I think, when my brothers, obviously, taking care of Chris, my next oldest brother, obviously helping my mom take care of Chris and stuff like that. There were still some brother things. Obviously, even though he has special needs, we still mess with him a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We treat him like a brother, right? But, get in trouble for it. But, Kevin and I, our relationship, was just really, staying busy. It was, we did our, kind of had our family, but then we also had our friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we were busy in sports and, hanging out with buddies and stuff like that during childhood. So, but its influence, it was just a good family. Yeah.
Got it. You spent most of your formative years in Lodi. What did that town mean to you at that time in your life?
Small town. It's probably about the size of 40,000 at the time when I was living there back in the late 90s, early 2000s and stuff. Is that it was one of those towns that you were talking about, that not many colored people in that town, right? So Lodi was just that small town. Had a couple high schools in it. The middle school that I went to was in that city. But good small town. I mean, it was, like I said, that's the only thing I really did. Really didn't hang out there. We found places in Stockton to hang out. And stay out of trouble. But, that was a different time. But, that was it.
Man, dude, you know what? I had never been to downtown Stockton. Dude, that was an eye-opener. That reminded me like downtown Oakland.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, dude, I was in a patrol car, dude, driving through driving through that downtown Stockton. Dude, I did not feel safe, and I never felt that here in Visalia, and also here's the thing with Amtrak, I was by myself.
Right.
So they wanted me to call Stockton PD if I needed backup.
Yeah.
Well, dude, Stockton PD, they're too damn busy to come help, the cops on the train.
Yeah.
And so my time there was short-lived.
Stockton's the only time my wife has gone back. We still have some family up in Stockton area at Lodi, Galt even, just north of Lodi. But she's taken the Amtrak a couple times, and she definitely has a family member there. It's the only city where Amtrak only opens up one car.
Correct.
And it is one car only for people that want to get off in Stockton, specifically that, because they've had so many people jump on and steal suitcases.
Big time.
Yeah. So
and then also you can get on the bus there in Stockton, and it'll take you to it can switch lines for you, but that Stockton area. In fact, I still talk to the cops that are assigned there, and I'm like, I don't even know how you boys do it, dude.
It's rough. That's rough.
High school was a busy chapter. Football, baseball, and sports writing. How did athletics and storytelling balance each other for you?
It was a good balance in the sense that obviously played the sports. I wasn't never wrote on the sports I was playing in, so I had fall and a spring. So the other sports I would cover and stuff like that, it was just a good chance to meet the other athletes from other sports, right? And just kind of grow the circle of friends. But I think the storytelling part of it is just knowing the sports, knowing the background of being somebody that's in, knowing the coaches at the high school, because they were teachers also, just like every other high school. Got a chance to really get to know them, inside out kind of thing, as what their perspective was as not only as a teacher, but a coach, and how they mentored their kids in different sports and stuff. So it was interesting.
What positions you play?
I played defensive back and a running back, tailback.
Man, DB, huh?
Yeah.
All right, man. You're looking at a free safety.
Yeah,
here,
there
man.
you go. Yeah, yep. Let's love to play defense versus offense.
Oh, me too. Me too. What did writing for the school newspaper and yearbook teach you about observation and communication?
I think the communication part is, obviously interviewing somebody, right? Just talking to the coaches, or whether it was going to be one of their star players or something that's had a great season, was to make sure that we, obviously whatever we heard, that we actually predicted and put it on paper and put it in well to where they, thought they would be well, interpreted by, what they wanted to say. And so it was just a good way of getting communication together, and then putting it on, in a paper or formatted to where it fit the paper or the yearbook. If it was going to be a story that was going to be written, obviously third person after the year was over, something about their season or whatever. So it's just a good, obviously English skills, writing skills, just communication and putting it all on paper. I think that's what it taught me to do.
You know what's so funny, man? It's like when I thought about having my first firefighter, I thought of you. I really did. There's something about you. Me and you've kind of always been connected in a way. For the folks at home, his kids were the first. Well, your daughter was the first class of El Diamante.
Yeah, the twins. Yeah,
I was the first officer at El Diamante that year. So I got to meet you then. Yep. And then just through the years, man, there's something about you, even when you rose through the ranks. I just remember you always had you always had a big smile. Yep. You were easy to talk to. And there's some firefighters that don't have that. Yeah. I think, I don't know where this line in the sand gets drawn, where you're firefighter or you're cop. Yeah. But you, Bush, guys like that, man, I respect a lot, because you guys were always so good to us. Right. We'd be out there on the same calls together. Yeah. And you know this, some of those calls, bro, are gut wrenching, and you guys are right there with us. I can always say this, man. When we were responding to a medical call and you beat us there, I was so happy because our CPR skills are rudimentary at best.
Yeah.
We do not have all the gear like you guys got. And so you're looking at a big fan of firefighters. I have always supported you guys. I think Visalia PD does it better than most, and I think Visalia firefighters do it better than most.
Yeah. Think about that. I mean, overall, I mean, fire service general and public safety, right? We go to the same calls, and we're all going to be involved in the same kind of crap calls that we go to, right? Visalia, really, I can speak of in the 30 years I've been here, and even before I started, had a really good relationship. I mean, with both entities. Obviously there wasn't a lot of cops on the street. So, I mean, there was sometimes, when getting to a vehicle accident, we did a lot more stuff than till you guys got there and be able to handle what you guys needed to do. But I will say this, it's always been a pleasure working with the other boys in blue, boys and girls in blue, because, we're out there taking care of some of the same stuff. So knowing that where they come, I think that we all want to do the best job possible, right? And I think that, working together makes it easy. So if you have an open line of communication, it makes it so much easier to
and
get
I
things
would
done.
tell you this, man, there are some firefighters that have helped me take down some crooks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And that is something that I have a lot of respect for, because I think there's a lot of people that get freaked out with violence. And, me, I was born to do it. And I think that when you guys would jump in and help, I would always be like, hey, I'll take all the help I can get.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Because, we're out here, we're dealing with people that are drunk, high, and crazy. And most of the time, all three things in the same person. So just know this, man. I'm a huge fan of the fire guys. I'm a huge fan of Visalia Fire. You guys have done nothing but just treat me with nothing but dignity and respect. And so always know that.
Good. Yeah, no, it's been, like I said, working with yourself and obviously you get to know the police officers on multiple calls and men down. We go on all those almost all day, every day kind of thing. But, there's obviously the calls that are the real ones that we all knew we had to get the job done,
for sure.
Working with still a lot of police officers I've worked with have been really good work, working whether they've been on the street or, outside the street, working on special projects.
And for the folks at home, there's actually a firefighter that looks almost identical to me. He's a Turnage.
James
Right. All right.
James Turnage, yes.
But here's what's funny for the folks at home. People call me the evil twin because me, I wanted to kill everybody.
Right.
Turnage is not like that.
Nicest guy in the world. Yeah.
Very sweetheart of a dude.
Oh, sweet dude.
But I remember we'd go on calls, and if me and Turnage were there, you could almost see people look at me and then look at Turnage. And I remember one time we were out there on something. It was a big thing. And I get a call and they're like, hey, somebody took a picture of one of your guys' faces and they said that they were using profanity. And at first they called the fire department and they're like, and I go, it wasn't Turnage, it was me. Because he's such a nice guy, right?
Yeah. No, he's,
but it's just funny, man.
Yeah. Our nickname for James was Bob the Builder.
Yeah. Is he still there?
He's still there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Captain over 52. Yeah.
Oh, he's a captain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Rose the ranks. Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. He's
man.
leading the crew. Yeah.
Well, and here's another guy, Briggs, right?
Yeah. Robert.
When Briggs was just a firefighter, I would call him Captain Briggs on calls. And he used to tell me, hey, dude, don't do that, dude. Yeah. But I would do it just to mess with him.
Get him in
and then one day I go, Captain Briggs, and he goes, I finally am a captain. And I go, oh, hey, man, good for you, bro. Another dude, sweetheart of a guy. Yes. Sweet dude.
Great dude.
Looking back now, do you see early signs of leadership in your teenage years?
Yeah, I do. I think, obviously having the responsibility, the writing and, playing sports, obviously leadership, you learn those leaderships. And I think that's where a lot of my leadership skills come from. Teamwork skills, that kind of stuff, working with other people, come from sports, man. And the thing we say about public safety, about 90% of public safety of all play organized sports. And that's how they get, they transition to a job where it takes teamwork to get the job done.
Yeah.
If you got a bad call, you need backup. If we have a bad fire, we've got to call, multiple crews, work with different departments. So the leadership in the high school part in sports led to, even the writing and all that kind of stuff, being on times, had deadlines, right?
Yeah.
Had to meet deadlines, all these different things. I'd come out of class or come out of sports and practice, head right over to go write an article I was working on to get that done. So besides everything else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you know what? I mean, even from the day I met you, you just have, I don't want to use the word intense, but you have a very direct way of looking at people, talking with people that even before you were promoted, I remember thinking, one day, you're going to do something here.
Sure.
And it came to fruition because you just have, I think you have that confidence in you that makes guys like us, mine unfortunately never manifested itself into leadership.
I did. In different ways, right?
Yeah. I was a leader.
Right.
I just wasn't a supervisor.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Boot on the ground.
If you could describe your mindset at 18 years old in one word, what would it be and why?
I think at 18, I'd have to say word would be focused. And so that was the year that obviously my father passed away.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is, now it's gotten real. I was still playing sports, going through just high school and doing everything I needed to do. But I think focused would best describe it, because I think, not having a father now and having my, take care of the mother, and even she was taking care of my next older brother with the special needs and stuff. So it got real focused. And I think that's where I think I had to kind of draw the line and stay on the line and of getting a job. I was already working in a restaurant because I started early with my dad.
What restaurant?
We were working at a place actually when I was of age of 17, when I got to 16, 17, I started working at Golden West Restaurant. And that's the one that we transferred from Midwest and brought us over to the West Coast. And it was a 24-hour operation, just like a Denny's, kind of a short order cook. I rose the ranks and even in the restaurant business, but you start out as a busboy, a dishwasher, and then, short order cook, you're working one half of the kitchen, and then you get full kitchen.
Yeah.
And you become a full cook and stuff like that. So, rose the ranks, and obviously he taught me the way of the world of restaurant business and stuff like that. So
I would tell you this, man. My first job was a busboy at a restaurant in high school. And when I left that job, I swore to myself that I would never work food again. Right?
Cleaning up after people.
And guess what?
Yeah.
Come hell or high water, I made that happen.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. I got to work at the nicest restaurant in Tulare. It was called the Sequoia Club. And dude, I was living, my mom was, we were on welfare. My mom didn't have anything. We were living in bad neighborhoods. But dude, if I worked a shift, I could have anything on the menu.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
So, dude, here I am. On my days off, I'm eating Spam and top ramen. And on the days I'm working, I'm eating filet mignon, dude. I was living as high on the hog as I ever had, dude.
Yeah.
And, and so that is what I'll always remember. But, dude, working food is a tough gig. Your father's sudden passing was a defining moment. Can you walk us through that night and its aftermath?
Yeah, well, can't remember the day of the week or anything like that day. Going back to that night, February, and it was late. I was in bed, and it was about 12:30 or so. Dad's still up. He'd stay up after getting back from the restaurant, after 10 or so, 9, 10 o'clock. He'd chill out, have something to eat, and then watch TV, the news, all that kind of stuff. So kind of staying up. And then all of a sudden, I hear just screaming from my brother. And then all of a sudden, I hear pounding. Like, oh, what the hell is going on? So I come out of my bedroom, come down the hall, and that was the moment where I saw him on the floor. He'd been there for a little bit, and then my brother, like I said he found him. What happened? And he said, no, he came home. And what the pounding I heard is that he had punched a hole in the wall, just from his rage and stuff, So it just a reaction, and just a sudden reaction to it and stuff like that. So it was kind of just hard to take in. Obviously, we called 911, got him over there, but there's nothing. had been too long, so there was no, life-saving measures that were going to be. So, anyway, yeah, we just didn't know, and it's normal thing. So the finding moment part of it is just the fact that it was sudden and just all of a sudden everything's great, and then all of a sudden
come out of
something
nowhere.
comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it starts changes for you.
How did that loss immediately change your life and priorities?
Okay, going back again, just talking about the priorities being focused. I think it was more now, a little more real in the sense that finishing school, finishing well, everything I did, obviously my father's, work ethic standpoint was, do well. If you're going to play sports, you're going to, grades are going to be good, that kind of objectives. So it just continued on with the path of finishing school, and then just taking care of my mom. But what had happened, unfortunately, through that, kind of defined it from my brother's standpoint. We went two different directions. Unfortunately, after he'd already been, he was partying and stuff. He was in high school at the time too, or out of high school, but going to junior college. And so he had some, buddies he'd be hanging out, and they'd just have beers. But it ended up getting a little bit more serious for him. So
Got it.
we went different pathways. He ended up going towards a path of addiction. And I unfortunately stayed on the path that we just need to get things done and take care of my mom and brother and my other brother and just kind of make things.
Were you guys like helping, having to pay the bills and all that?
Well, she wasn't working, right?
Yeah.
So we were just we were helping pay bills. Obviously, my dad was the primary, breadwinner in the family. I mean, from the standpoint of paying all the bills and stuff like that. So that changed. I went on the path of continuing that. Now she did get some monies, obviously, from like Social Security for his passing and stuff. But it changed from going from a house to getting her apartment, and we kind of condensed. My brother went his own way, got his own place, and that was where he got on the path of addiction, unfortunately, with alcohol. And at one point unfortunately, I had to step in, and just kind of break the chain, a little tough love.
Oh yeah.
And get involved by not letting him get to my mom's money and just blowing it on alcohol and partying and all that kind of stuff. So that really kind of tore our relationship started getting a little bit a little fragile, to the point where he was going and doing his thing, but I was still continuing on, going to school, playing sports, finishing up everything that I had still going. I was in my senior year, so I was midway in my senior year, so I had a lot of stuff going on. Didn't stop.
You became a caretaker for your mother at a very young age. What was that burden like, bro?
Well, I think the burden it wasn't too much from the sense that just making sure that she was safe, had a good place, or, with it, she was sheltered. At that time, that was when we actually, part of the caretaking part of it was getting my brother involved and getting him into a caretaking home, special needs home. So he became a client of a home that we found through the resources we were able to use in San Joaquin County and Stockton area, and we were able to get him a care home. And we had other clients involved, all different, different levels, mentalities, and stuff of special needs and stuff. So he was able to stay there, and then it was just worry about my mom, and again. Back what I remember, and I don't remember it to, the incident or anything else. I just know that it happened. But because I think she had a mental breakdown because of my, having a special needs child.
Well, that's a lot to take on, bro.
So very fortunate I'm here talking to you today because, I was in an accident afterwards. And, and it was just something that was a misfortune, in life, but she ended up raising him. He ended up living to 55 years old, which is very good. So before he passed away. And so he had a great life. And, it was just more so making sure that she got taken care of. It was just because it was a lot. Now losing her partner, losing her lifelong partner and everything else, it's tough on her, even tougher.
Your oldest brother's struggle with alcoholism added another layer of responsibility. How did you navigate that? Probably like emotionally. Because that's probably a lot.
It was.
Losing dad, special needs brother, now brother battling addiction. Yeah. So, man, you're getting hit from all sides, brother.
It was. So, stayed the course. I'd say stayed the course of, just getting things that I had going, getting them done, finishing them well. But it did add another level from sense point, thinking that it was that, like I said, that tough love before. Just the strain, because not only was it just me and myself and my mom, but there was other members of my family. My dad still had some brothers. He comes from a family of 7. He came from a family of 7, and so we still had some uncles and stuff like that. Well, those were some of the bridges that my brother was burning with other family members, and they were seeing it happen too. And really, they were just kind of very supportive from the sense that, stay the course, stay what you're doing, and do you need anything, we can help you out with anything you need. But for unfortunately, from my brother's standpoint, he was actually burning those bridges with other family members.
Where was your dad from?
He was from Ohio also.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
He was born and raised in Lima, Ohio. So we all came from that area. His parents were back in old Lima before they passed. And so we were in Lima, Columbus. My brother was born in Columbus. I was born in Toledo, Dayton. We lived all over Ohio before we actually moved out and came west.
What was it like having to set firm boundaries to protect your family, even when it strained relationships? And I've had to deal with this in my personal life, brother. I know how it is, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like you said, at a young age, being 18 and having those, that having to do that and tell my mom why I'm doing it and explain it to her that, he's not wasting the money away here. He bought a car that he wrecked. It was a brand new IROC Z Camaro. And, those kind of things. And you could just see it being wasted away. And so the strain was definitely just getting in and being like going through the legal process, because I was 18 at that time, to actually go through the court process, become almost a caretaker and be like a co-signer on everything, on the finances, all that kind of stuff. So I did have access.
Like conservatorship or something.
Conservatorship, yeah, exactly right. And even though she was still alive, it was just basically at that point a dependent co-signer for anything that was financial.
Got it.
And just making sure she was taken care of.
How did that period of hardship shape your sense of duty and resilience?
I think the resilient part of it is just taking a bad thing and making and continuing on. I know that would what my father would have wanted, just to continue on, right? Yeah. Don't piss off life, and life happens, right? But he would have been to the point, and I always had to think back to that and think to that day. What if he had said and wanted me to do those kind of things? He'd already instilled those into me. Those morals and everything else were already instilled. So he was okay. Well, somebody's got to do it, and even my brother was in the restaurant business with us once, and they bucked heads a lot.
Got it.
Yeah, he was just one of those guys who was really just kind of hard to get the message through, and it had to be. there was some blowouts behind in the kitchen before that I've seen, but I was from the standpoint of my brother and versus me. We had two different mentalities. I would take it and be able to understand it a little bit more versus him. If it wasn't his way, it wasn't right, kind of thing. And so a little bit more understanding. I think it defined me by saying that, and I just had to, do the tough love thing. And like I said, it strained our relationship. He went down that path, and it went farther down that path until a point where he actually got in trouble. Court ordered a lot of things, and that's where he had to be. He went through a court order, San Joaquin County program, that it was a recovery program.
Yeah, I would tell you something, man. Different situation, but I can empathize with what you're going through, because I was the cop. My sister didn't think like that, and my sister, years later, I finally realized that she was battling. She was bipolar. And ultimately, I lost her to suicide. But I remember we just thought so different, and I would try to help and try to talk to her. But, it's like, and it really did. It strained our relationship later on, because here I am, the cop, and she don't want to hear nothing from the cop. And so I know, especially when we're trying to do it when we're young, we think we know it all. And if you really think about it, brother, we really didn't know anything back then, right? We were like at 18, learning it. You know what I mean?
Still learning it all.
Yeah, because 18, that's a lot to take on. When your brother later entered recovery, what did healing and reconciliation look like for your family?
It looked like at least I could speak on our relationship, my brother and myself, our relationship got better. Obviously,
Got it.
I still visited him even when he was locked up and in the recovery program. Go visit them every, weekly, go out there and see him when I could, when they had visitation and everything, and see how he's doing, words of support, motivation, that kind of stuff. But it got better after. And I think he realized what he did, and just kind of went down the wrong path. And, it didn't matter who he was hurting, kind of thing. And I think that's with all, whether it's drugs or alcohol, when you go through that, really, you're on your own deal. You don't really care who you run over in the process.
That's still true,
right?
Man.
Yeah, they're on their own path. So, unfortunately, you have to let them hit their rock bottom. And like I said, his rock bottom was getting forced in jail. But it helped. The relationship took longer for the outside, the other family members to actually forgive and forget. Because it was tough. It was to see him do something like that at a real tough time for my mom and what she had to go through, and give me another piece of, life at her, throwing another piece of life at her that was very tough. It was tougher for the outside family, but ours
I always
got
say
better.
this too, and this, man, life has a way of reaching out and taking a bite out of you at the worst times.
Yep.
And me and you have both seen the finality of so many lives that were lost to either alcoholism, drug addiction. And I think what it does is, we've seen so much trauma, brother. And if you really think about it, it's poison.
Yeah.
It's poison.
Yeah.
And I don't care how you cut it. And I tell people that's probably the hardest thing, I think, for cops or firefighters or anybody in service. You just see the devastation that drugs and alcohol can do to people. That is hard. And then once you put the family dynamic into it, then now it's even stacking the chips even higher.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you believe those early trials prepared you for the realities of emergency service later on in life?
Yeah, I think that being able to handle those types of situations, again, kind of new, hadn't had any medical background prior to me when I was in high school. It all came in college, when I got out and I graduated. But I think it helped in a sense that, again, just being the responsible person, it's responsibility, right? And I think big word, and we use responsibility as one of our core values and stuff like that, is being responsible. That it helped in that sense. I think it helped me, stay the line, stay the course, and whatever I wanted to do, I had to finish, right? So if I wanted to, once after I was going to school for business, really wasn't going for becoming a firefighter. And it was just, like I said, we'll talk about it, but where we got that conversation, we had it, and it was a reserve sheriff that said, go down that path. I wanted to try it, and really didn't want to go the restaurant business. I wasn't going to do what my dad did. Unfortunately, I knew that I wasn't going to be in the restaurant business till I was, for a career. I didn't want to do that. I wanted something a little bit more challenging. So I was going to get my degree for business, and at that point, I changed directions while I was in college. So I think it did help me from that standpoint.
Yeah, and I think for you, it's like every time I ever saw you. And I think that this is maybe something that endeared me to you. You always had a good attitude. I just remember big smile, good attitude, easy to talk to. Those things, and like I always said this, I was blessed with something a lot of cops don't have. It's called a personality, brother.
Right.
And but I just remember, I think that that's something that for guys like us, my situation. A lot of similarities with you, dealing with a lot of struggling, very young, and it just put this drive in me, bro, that I have accomplished things that I could have never, ever imagined. In fact, every now and then I'll go over here and teach at the college, and when I'm running down my pedigree to people, I have to sometimes go, wow. Even for me, I just go, I can't believe everything I've done. And I think they're similar with you. It's like there it is. I think it just puts this drive in us to go farther, work harder, achieve more than most.
Yep. I think that's just the skills were instilled into us.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, we had to learn them, but we got them then.
How do you process grief now compared to how you did back then?
Standpoint of grief. I mean, process, I would think I'd say I'd be good at processing it. I mean, I've had a lot of grief, obviously. After I was 18, my father passed away. It wasn't till I was in my 20s. I was actually a volunteer firefighter at the time, early 20s, and that was when my mom passed away.
Got it.
So had to deal with her grief. And then
how old was your mom when she passed?
she was probably not very much older. She was probably a few years older. I think she made 50. She was just right around 50, 51.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was there. And she wasn't much older than my father, than when she passed, but it wasn't too much longer after,
Heart attack too?
I'm not sure. We don't know. I was on a fire. Actually, I was on a mutual aid fire and base camp, and I got the phone call from my station, from my home station. Hey, we need to get you back. You got some bad news. Your mom passed away, and like, okay, I need to come off the fire, and got relief personnel and stuff. So, really don't know what happened, and because I wasn't there at the time, but so had to deal with her grief, her processing, and then it was just brother passed away, and he was 40, in his late 40s, 48 when he passed away, but his was from a medical procedure.
Got it.
Yeah. So dealing with grief, and it was a lot of grief I had to deal with, and I was young. I mean, I was in my mid 20s, and most of my family was passing away or passed. So it helped me in a sense that, and then we had, even when I met my wife, when I was in my 20s, we met, and her mom ended up going through a cancer battle and she ended up passing at the end. And so we had to deal with her grief, but she comes from a bigger family.
Yeah.
So I think what happened there and how I deal with grief, or was able to deal with grief, helped her family in a sense, be able to understand it, because there was a lot of infighting about, who was treating mom good, who treated her bad, that kind of stuff. I mean, the kids, she had 10 siblings. 10 kids. I'm sorry. Not 10 siblings, 10 kids.
Got it.
And they were all, different various ages, all the way from, spread out and stuff. And so it really, I think my dealing with my grief from my job, or even being a volunteer firefighter, helped out in dealing with my own grief and my volunteerism, volunteering as a firefighter early on, kind of helped me, kind of process a little better.
Yeah. I think I handle grief well, and I'm sure you do too. I struggle with empathy. That's my problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I think it's all the stuff we saw, and all the stuff we did, and I have to work at it.
Yeah.
And but in fact, tomorrow, I turn 55 tomorrow, and I will be retired from Vice LUPD for 5 years tomorrow. It's also my anniversary tomorrow.
I did the same thing.
But,
had a birthday.
But it's interesting, bro, that these last 5 years, I'm living my best life now. But man, dude, there were some years in there, man, where, dude, I just was not empathetic. And I think the job has made a lot of people hard.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of the fact I got to retire when I wanted. I'm sure you feel the same. Because think about how many people didn't make it, bro.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But as I'm getting older, I always say this: my rough edges are starting to
smooth out a little.
Smooth out a little.
That's what it is. Yeah.
What lessons about family and loyalty stayed with you throughout your career?
I think the family part of it is having, it was a little, stressful when I was younger, but as I got older, family knew what I was, continued the path in the right direction, right? Going to school, continuing on, getting into a career that I wanted to get into, doing all the right things. Got support from them. So I think family is a huge support, no matter what profession you do. I just happened to be, there was no other first responders or public safety in my family.
Yeah.
Regardless, even in my immediate to anybody outside, they all did different jobs and stuff. So public safety was kind of like, and I said, I found out it was a calling for me, but I think the family helped out, being supportive of it, and then leading to the loyalty of it. I think it was just really just having those morals instilled, the hard work and everything.
Yeah,
Just keeping them
and
going.
I would tell you this: I love you, I love your wife, I love both your kids, man. I mean, you guys have everyone's been great to me, and so, but every time I always saw you and your wife, you guys seem to complement each other very well. It always seemed like you guys got along. The kids, I always saw you. It always seemed like you were very supportive,
Mhm.
and so. For me, when I get around a good dad, I have respect for that because I didn't have that, right? And like my dad was not a good dad, and my dad was married 9 times, bro.
Yeah.
and
A lot of weddings.
but and so I wasn't raised around my dad. I was raised just by my mother. But so when I get around somebody like yourself, that's a good father. From me to you, it's something about you I respect. And I wish I would have had that. But I realize now my story probably would have changed because I think that chip on my shoulder is the thing that made me do the stuff that I achieved.
Right.
I don't know.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
After high school, you attended Delta College and played football. What direction did you think your life was headed for at that time?
Well, obviously, the sports kept me busy. And that was something I always loved doing. But the direction, I really didn't have it. I mean, like I said, I was going to school for business, but was going to get the degree and then find a career that I wanted to do. So I just hadn't found it yet. And it was just more so do the classes that you have to do to get, what you need to get. I really didn't have a direction at that point. So I was just doing everything the right way and living life one day at a time and being a good teammate, good, brother and supporter to my mom at the time, as I was, like I said, before she passed and just taking one day at a time.
It's so weird, man. I went to COS after I graduated and I was going for business, right? Until I took micro and macro econ, dude. And this guy, I might as well been on the moon, dude. I didn't understand any of this shit.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this is not my path.
Right.
And I actually ended up joining the Navy shortly after. But I look at those times, man, and I realize it now. Things happen for a reason, and it pushes us where we're supposed to go. Even when we don't realize it at the time. You were studying business while working as a cook. Did you ever imagine leaving that path?
I did. Leaving that path of, business. I was, like I said, business was a general ed kind of thing. It was a coverall. But the cooking and the restaurant business, it was definitely, I ended up leaving that and I was working part-time as a cook. Ended up getting a job at part-time as at Costco. So I was merchandising also. So I had a few jobs. And when I got that job, I was like, they paid more. It was a different job.
Costco's always been a good gig. Yeah.
It's always been a good gig. And I worked there from 88 to 91. And, that 3 years that I was there, it was good. So I knew that I wanted to leave the cooking business or the restaurant. I wasn't going to be a career cook or, manager or anything like that, which it's where you end up going. But I definitely, knew that I wanted to go do something different. I just didn't know what.
I would tell you something, dude. All right. So I go and I apply to Costco when I get out of the military. Now I applied to Highway Patrol, LAPD, and Costco.
Right, variety.
Yeah. And the manager of the Costco here in town didn't hire me. Well, years later, he's a highway patrolman. I'm by PD, but I never forgot him. And I was like, and he actually became a very good friend. But I told him one time, I said, "Hey, asshole, you didn't give me that job over there at Costco."
Skunked me.
And he was like, "I don't even remember." I go, "I do."
Yeah.
Right. But you realize, and I realize now, Highway Patrol and LAPD both gave me the affirmative action stuff, but that was right after like the OJ and the riots and all that, right? Different time.
Profiles, yeah.
A reserve sheriff planted the seed about becoming a firefighter, what about that suggestion kind of resonated with you? Are you bothered by leg veins of any size, or is leg swelling or pain bugging you or someone you know? I would recommend that you make an appointment with our friends at Sequoia Vein and Wound to take care of it. With a friendly bilingual staff and their years of experience, they are happy to help resolve those issues. Give them a call to get a consult at 559-713-6478 and tell them that Jay Mac sent you.
It was he was actually a boyfriend of my. I was at the time with the mother of my first child, and he was the boyfriend of her mom. He was a reserve sheriff, and he was over in Pleasanton, Livermore, Pleasanton area. And that comment came after, he would go and do weekends and stuff like that. He'd have a full-time job, and then he'd go be a weekend reserve sheriff and do ride-alongs and do his time and stuff like that. He knew some firefighters from Livermore, Pleasanton area, right next door. Again, just like, all police station, fire stations, there's always a main station.
Oh, yeah.
Or, they're right next door to each other. He actually had made that comment and said, hey, man, I know these guys. I talk to them a lot of times because they're always there. But you got outgoing personality, you got a lot of energy, like you said, you've always got that, that being extroverted kind of thing. He says, yeah, look and see if you want to do that. You've got a lot of energy for it. And it seemed you had to be right down your path. So took it and, I said, yeah, you know what, maybe that is something. I'll look into it. And that comment led to me actually looking around where I lived in the area of becoming a volunteer firefighter and doing it for free just to see if I wanted to do it.
Yeah. In my military time, I joined the Navy to see the world and saw all of California.
But
I was stationed in Alameda, and me and my buddies, we used to go to the Black Angus in Pleasanton, right?
Yep.
That was
the
the
highway.
bar.
Yeah.
That was the bar where you could pick up on chicks, right? That was our thing back then, right? Bunch of military dudes. But yeah, dude, I love that area. I'd go live there now.
Yeah.
Cost of living is atrocious, but I love the area, right?
Yep.
What was your first impression of the fire service before you even volunteered?
Knowing seeing it on TV. That was my impression of it. You see, back in the day, it was emergency, the show, right? That was everybody's show, 70s, 80s, 90s kind of thing. But just going back and then they've made some movies about it. You see, Backdraft came out in late 80s and stuff like that, early 90s. And the profession that's totally all I knew about it. It was just a career, right? And so, and then I got, like I said, made the jump to actually start volunteering and see what it was like. That was when I learned that it was something I definitely wanted to do. So definitely pursue.
Jay, did you ever get to do that cool thing on Backdraft where they're the guy's hanging by your hand, and if you go, we all go.
You go, we go. Yeah. Never got that. Pull a guy out of a burning hole. No, unfortunately. But you did learn over the years though that the camaraderie of that. If you did have something like that, you definitely knew. Yeah, you had somebody's back. But
and I will tell you this:
overexposed in a movie, but
I don't miss law enforcement. Okay. Now, do I miss chasing people and driving fast and pulling guns? Yeah, I miss that, right? I miss some of the guys, but man, law enforcement's gotten so political over these last few years that I don't miss.
Yeah.
But I do miss being boots on the ground, showing up to stuff. Now, and this, and a lot of people don't, but whatever you see on social media or newspaper or news, they always get it wrong. Me and you were there. We got to see it.
Yeah.
I miss being in the know.
Yeah.
That's probably been the hardest part for me, as I'm no longer in the know. All the guys that I was tight with, we're all starting to retire now.
Yeah.
And so, but the PD has changed so quickly. I'm sure fire has too.
It has.
You know what I mean? Well, it's such a revolving door, right?
Yeah. Especially with the retirement programs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We were in the age of, the retirement was good.
Yes.
Times were good. Economic times were good. And so we had a different retirement than the currently is out there right now. So a little harder, so guys are going to be there a little bit longer, but the guys that had the good retirement have now, like I said, taken it and, gone to the next chapter.
Well, you know what's so funny? I know, man, just to look at a 21-year-old kid going into fire or police, they're going to have to do a 36-year career, brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just don't think people are going to make it.
Yeah.
I mean,
gotta stay healthy.
Well, yeah, but like for me, I did 25, bro, and it was enough. If they would have told me I had to go do another 7, I'd have bawled my eyes out, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. Let's talk about your decision to volunteer with the San Joaquin Delta Fire District. What did that commitment require?
So they were a smaller district outside of Stockton. They were just north of Lodi, so they covered unincorporated areas.
Yeah.
What that meant is they covered like some mobile home parks. They covered the Delta, which the San Joaquin Delta is about 500 miles of waterway that led into the Pacific Ocean. But a lot of it was used for boating. I mean, there was a lot of people that took their boats out on the Delta.
I bet there's a lot of accidents up there. A lot of people drinking.
A lot of drinking and partying and on the boats, right? So we had this place called Lost Isle. It wasn't too far from Stockton, but it was an island. And it had it was a place to get gas for all the boats and everything else, but it also turned into the party island. So we had all sorts of accidents and stuff come out of that. But so we covered that, plus the land that we covered. Highway 12, I-5 interchange.
Junction. I know right where you're at.
12 leads to the back way to the Bay Area, right? So a lot of trucks, a lot of semis, a lot of traffic on Highway 12 westbound going into the Bay Area. And undivided, 2-lane undivided. We got some serious grinders out there.
Head-ons.
Head-ons with semis. Not much space on the roadway, again, because on both sides of it were ditches and nothing but agriculture on both sides of it.
Yeah.
So canals full of water and stuff like that. We had vehicles in water.
So people drowning.
Yeah, we had some real serious accidents. And so the volunteering thing was definitely a challenge. I said I learned most of my responsibility of job-wise because it was me, myself, and Irene for a little while. I had other volunteers coming. We were, a combination department. But until some other bodies showed up, I was pretty much John Wayne until, CHP showed up, EMS showed up, and myself. And then in that part of the area, we also had, Life Flight, we had Reach helicopter, they were automatic aid. So first thing you got out of the barn, I had a helicopter that was launching right now to come out and transport because the transport times were so long for an ambulance. So
plus just the traffic in the Bay Area. Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Jesus.
It was good. And it was heavy. It was always the back way to the Bay Area. So coming off the 5, hooking off. So lots of stuff, but good responsibility learned. And then that was just, like I said, it didn't scare me away from it. Got me just deeper into it. And, like I said, start taking courses, to get better at to understand, jaws of life and rescues and all that a little bit better. And that just led my career, man, and just took off from there.
Got it. How challenging was it to juggle school, work, and firehouse duties all at once?
Busy, that's for sure. There wasn't much time. There wasn't much time. I'd go part-time at night, get off, and then work, Costco ended up being part-time and never a full-time position, but I worked almost full-time hours. But I worked from like 4 a.m. to about 11:30, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd get off, get a couple hours of rest, work another job, maybe take a night class. I was at night school. And then volunteering entailed, because it was a smaller department, and I was a volunteer, I was able to work my schedule around. So if I had an open day, I would do it. Just like explore programs, that kind of stuff in PD. So it kind of relates to that. You get some experience, you get the opportunity to go hang out at the station, run calls if you got any. And so it really was just had to balance everything and not screw it up, get enough rest to do it all.
Yeah.
But it was a busy time. But I was able to do it. I was young and it happened.
Can you describe your first emergency call and how it confirmed your calling?
First call.
Something major.
Something major. Okay. Well, the first major call was a vehicle accident. And it was a gal, got head on, semi. She goes over, semi, jackknives, ends up being okay. The tractor trailer, the tractor part of it was okay. He ends up getting out. But this car, I remember, was split in half, and she's in the front half of it. I roll up on the scene, and I've got a car there's only half of it. I look at the back end of it, and there's nobody in it. I check it, and then lots of people had stopped by that time, running up, kind of bystanders and stuff like that. So obviously traffic comes to a dead halt, a 2-lane. There's a lot of people pointing at the car, and she had gone into the ditch. And actually she was pinned in. So she's in half of a car, right? But the front half of the car, and pinned up, pushed up into the dash. And it was just a long extrication. I had extrication. I knew it was going to be one of those kind of calls. We needed some equipment to get her out. Probably the most difficult decision I would have done differently is called for what we call mutual aid or another department for them to bring some specialized, what we call rams. And it actually kind of pushes the car up. I had the jaws of life and I had cutters, but I didn't have one of those rams.
Yeah.
And I didn't call for it soon enough. But once we got it there, it ended up being thing. She ended up, she was fortunate. She ended up living, coming out of that call. She was conscious the whole time, just in a huge amount of pain, and obviously shoved up into a dash. Lower end was all mashed. It was all beat up under the dash and everything else. So, but she ended up, being able to recover and walk and come back to the fire station.
Jesus.
And that was one of those first moments where, a lot of stuff going on when I was by myself. And helicopter, we landed her, we flew her out to the nearest trauma center, and just a lot of things. But it was the first call where you actually see what you did, a lot of some of those decisions that were, came to fruition and actually saved a person's life. So I think that was probably my first major call that I probably regret not asking for some equipment early on, probably from inexperience and everything else, but I learned from it. And then to see that actually she actually survived with all the right equipment that we were able to use on her and get her out of it.
I remember we would go to choking babies, non-stop breathing babies, anything with a baby. You guys would get there and bring back the babies, and I've seen you guys save so many babies, save so many people.
Yeah.
And I literally would tell people, thank this person. And I would point at one of you fire guys. And people would look at me and give me this weird look. But I'm like, if I didn't know how to do this stuff, you guys did. You guys had all that bitchin' equipment where you guys could do that stuff. And I remember watching people that I was like, oh, no way, this person, there's no way they're going to make it. And you guys would show up and get them breathing, dude. Yeah. And, it was awesome to watch. Yep. And, I don't want to diminish an EMT, but, the EMTs would get there, man, and you guys would show up and just take over these scenes, man. Right. And I would watch you guys. It's impressive, brother. Yep. It truly is. And I don't think people realize the level of skills you guys have when it comes to medical. People just assume firefighter is fire. Yeah. But man, your guys' medical skills is on point, bro. Yeah. It's on point. And I heard all the guys here in town, they're, what you call it?
Paramedics.
Paramedics.
Not all of them, but yeah, we have EMTs and paramedics, but majority, that's all we hire now. So if you're a new firefighter coming to Visalia, you come in as a firefighter paramedic.
Got it.
And so you already have those skills. You have those advanced, what we call advanced life skills. About 1,000 hours of training just on ALS. But you mentioned, the difference between us and, like the EMTs or the EMS, on the ambulance and stuff. Work well together with them because obviously they're part of that team.
They are.
Same team. They transport. We're using their gas and their speed to get to the patient to the best hospital that they can. But it was more from the training standpoint. And I can speak of Visalia. We really held high standards to having the training, the skills, and always repeating them because, if you don't use them, you lose them. Just like your guys' skill sets.
Big time.
Right? Yeah. If you don't go to the range every so often. And
perishable skills.
Skills.
Yeah,
if you don't use them, they start slacking off, right? So we always made a point to keep our skills up and in a high standard standpoint of it being able to take on. Now, we work together because, again, we live together, which is different from those EMTs and EMS and everything. They may work shifts together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We get to know each other a little, hey, what they do, how they respond on a call, get to know each other. There's 3 people on an engine that would come off and everybody had their roles. Everybody knew their job, right? Just like you guys did. If you guys ran doubles and stuff like that, you knew how, Jay Mac was going to take over, if there was a vehicle stop and stuff like that. Guys knew each other's moves.
Big
Same
time.
thing on fire. Same thing on fire.
No,
we just
I see that.
We have the cool equipment, but they, nothing to say that everybody is expected to know their job, do it well, and again, use that equipment to their fullest ability. And so that's what you saw. And it was, you get great outcomes from it.
Big time.
Not
Big
everybody
time,
can
bro.
save. Not everybody can save, but the ones we could, we definitely made a difference. So it was good to see.
And what made you finally walk away from the restaurant industry for good, forever? You're like, I'm never doing it again.
I think that was, with just getting yelled at. I worked, in a shift of walking away from for good was just like, I knew it was just I had worked at night, because there wasn't a lot of cooks that would want to work the night shift.
Yeah.
24-hour operation. So graveyard, just like you guys' graveyard, it's 10 to 6. But there's always in a restaurant that stays open 24 hours. There's always that mad 2:30 rush from the bar, from the beer drinkers, and everybody, the bar's closing. 2:30, they want to go eat, right? Yeah, they had to have a hot breakfast. And dude, just listening to people after that point, just kind of like, all right, man, you throw out the best eggs and bacon you could ever throw out, and they're still not happy. They just, but that's the way people are, and that's just the restaurant business. So I just like, I've gotten my customer service skills out of this. I think I'm done with this. I'm gonna walk away.
All right. Do you remember Lions?
Yeah.
On Mooney? All right. So for the folks at home, there was a place called Lions, and that they were open 24 hours.
Yeah.
So me and the guys would go there when we were working swings or graves.
Yep.
And you're right, man. I mean, the food, is it top notch?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But it's fuel for what you're going to have to do, because, I'd pop in there, get some food, and, be on my way, because, with law enforcement, and here's this tough part for people at home. Cops, we can't go through drive-thrus. The people that work fast food tend to not like us, and I don't want people spitting in my food. So we would have to go to a Lions, right? And I remember I spent my first couple years, I spent a ton of money at Lions. I remember when it finally closed, dude, we were bummed because that was actually a good spot for us.
Right.
And I would literally walk in there. Some of you guys would be in there, us sheriffs, EMTs, it was interesting.
Anybody work graves? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How difficult was the testing process? I know that you took more than 15 exams across the state. How was that?
That was obviously tough. I mean, you guys, same thing. I mean, at the time I was taking them in the late 90s, lots of candidates. I mean, everybody wanted to work fire or PD. Didn't matter.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you go line up and you're part of a 4,000, person line or testing process where it takes all day. So yeah, there was those, it was just, I got into any job that I was eligible to take with my certs, my certifications, EMT, firefighter 1, anything that I had those certs and required and I was eligible, I took it. So
had you gone to a fire academy?
I went to the fire academy in Modesto.
Okay.
After at the same time I was in San Joaquin Delta, I took a course and I took just the fire academy in Modesto and then took my other courses in Delta.
Got it.
So all my other GE general eds and all that kind to get my associate. So
got it.
So I started taking it two different JCs and Modesto was close. But so I got my fire academy, but yeah, taking the tests, anything I could take, I was eligible to take tests for, I did. Took so many. I went all the way to Eureka to San Diego.
Oh wow, that's a big. That's the whole state.
I went to Shasta. I went to Shasta. And like I said, it was just tough. I mean, but it was getting those letters. You got them too. Or thanks but no thanks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, get those letters. Go out, rush. Get the mail, and you get that letter and go, all right. They give you a score. Didn't score high enough. I never did military, so I never did any points or anything like that. I was too busy going to school and working. But, it was just the grinding, trying to get a job.
I was going to ask you this. So my stepson graduated the fire academy in Porterville.
Yeah.
It's been almost 2 years and this poor kid cannot catch a break. What advice would you have for somebody like that?
Yeah. The one word I'd give him is perseverance. And again,
don't give up.
Don't give up. Perseverance. However you tell them, don't give up. I mean, if you want it, get it. I'd worked with a lot of high school kids and before I retired, was on the advisory board for Golden West. And it would tell those kids, I mean, if you want to be, squared away, keep your life straight, stay off the social media, don't get in trouble, and do the right things, lead a good life, and you'll get a job.
Yeah.
You can just, you just got to get that break, right? You're looking for it. But the more tests you take, the more process you go through, the better you get at it.
Well, you learn.
Little less nervous. You kind of know what to expect on the
time.
written. Right, because everything was standardized. You go through a written, you go through a physical agility, and then you go through the oral interview process. Same with any public safety. You're definitely going to get interviewed, so have your interview skills right. As always, check them there. So just practice. And again, perseverance, but 2 years, that's pretty soon, but apply for every job that you can. Yeah. Regardless of where it's at. If you want a job, you'll try to get a job. And then once your foot's in the door, then you can move to where you want to move. Just like you guys do. Yeah. So stay the course, man.
I would take the, I had to work the jail for a year. Yeah. And, wasn't my favorite gig. Yep. But it got me to Visalia. Right.
There's going to be some things you do that's going to be part of it.
Well, and you're right. Sometimes sometimes I always say this, and I've told some kids this. Sometimes the low road can take you places the high road can't. Yeah. And there's some truth to that, bro, because guess what? Sometimes how you think it's going to play out, it's not going to play out the way that you want it. And I had a ton of doors slammed in my face. Mm-hmm. But I was like you. I was like, hey, this is going to happen. Right. I don't care where I got to go. Right. It's going to happen. Yeah. Like you mentioned you had affirmative action. We didn't have that. We just had a lot of applicants. 4,000 people. If you didn't score in the upper 95 plus percentile, you probably didn't get called for the plus,
the next
I bet
process.
you Visalia was probably always been hard to get on because, agencies that pay well attract more candidates. Right. And Visalia for this area, the PD and the fire department have always been the more higher paid ones.
Sure. Yeah. Only because we're the largest city in Tulare County.
Correct.
Right? So, there's a lot of small cities surrounding us. So yeah, we always had that too. Nobody was as big. So, and then that was good and bad, right? Because then we didn't have anybody to compare to. So we had to go to Fresno, Clovis, Bakersfield to go find cities that were like our size, kind of thing when you go negotiating.
That is so true. Yeah. I remember one time they were doing contract negotiations and they were trying to compare us to like a Lindsay PD. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, they got 12 cops. Yeah. We've got 80. Mm-hmm. Those are not comparative.
Not apples to apples.
They are not. Yeah. And, but they don't like to go to the bigger agencies because then what that does is that takes that pay and bumps it. When Visalia and Chico both called in 1995, what ultimately made you choose fire? Visalia Fire.
Visalia Fire?
Yeah.
So I got the call from Chico in the morning. And we were renting, because I was, like I said, we weren't going to buy a house anywhere because we didn't know where we were going to end up, right? At the time, wife and I were together at the time, but weren't married yet. So we're renting together, living together. And
how old are the kids at this point?
Kids, I met my wife. I met Kim when she was coming out of a divorce, and her kids were 3 years old. Okay, so they were twins. Byron and Ashley were twins. So I met them when they were 3, and yeah, we're in Stockton, and I get that call in the morning from Chico, and I look back and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll accept it. And all of a sudden, I'm out there mowing the yard to get ready and get the house ready to get back to the landlord, and we're on our way to Chico. And about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, get a call from Visalia, and offered me, and they said, hey, was a lateral. Obviously I was going to come in as a lateral, so pay was a little bit more because I had some previous experience, and I, kind of cover the phone. I go, hey, we could go into Chico or we're going to Visalia. I ended up making a decision to come down to Visalia just because of the metropolitan area of it. Knowing it was a city versus going to Chico. I took the test. When I took the physical agility for Chico, it was probably the worst one I ever took. It was just in a torrential downpour. And we're doing hose drags, we're doing dragging dummies, and it's just, you're getting beat up from the weather. And we're doing it on the college at Chico State and college campus. And I'm going, man, this is the only place they probably every time they get busy in this city is when they're students. Yeah. And I said, when they're burning cars or they're celebrating some party or something like that, that's the only time you're going to get business. I'm going to go down to a city that has residents and has a steady job. So I ended up taking Visalia and told Chico thanks.
Hey, talking about a physical agility.
Yeah.
Dude, 2016. So this would have been, this probably 2015-ish. I went and applied to Newport Beach PD.
Yeah.
Top paid agency in the state. Dude, you know, their physical agility. This was some Navy SEAL shit, dude. Hey, dude.
They probably had
but
some. Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
you got to think
Yeah,
too,
those
for
guys.
me, I'm already mid 40s, you know,
Oh.
so I wasn't a young man.
Yeah.
Right. Trying to do it at 25 versus 45.
Right.
Father Time has its way with.
It does.
But anyways,
Yeah.
dude, I will never forget this physical agility. All right, you take off. You got 25 monkey bars. You got to hit all of them. Then you got to jump a cinder block wall. Then you got to jump another wall. Then you got to crawl through a window.
Yep.
Then you got to do balance beams.
Yep.
You got to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Drag a 150-pound dummy and all this other crap.
Yep.
Dude, I get done with it, and I had just spent myself. I'm over on the side huffing and puffing. The guy walks up to me and he goes, "Hey, brother, you missed it by 3 seconds. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to get your composure, and we'll run you through." I go, "Brother, I just gave you everything I got." And he goes, "You don't want to do it?" And I go, "No." And he goes, "You don't want the job?" And I go, "I don't want it this bad."
Yeah.
And he goes, so he walks with me for a second. And he goes, "Bro, man," he goes, "You sure?" And I said, "Dude, I'm a cop already, dude." I go, "I don't know why you guys are making us do this shit." And he's like, "Well, we like our people in shape." I go, "I'm in shape." But I go, are we invading Iraq? I go, what the fuck, man? And so he goes, "Are you sure?" And I said, "I'm positive." And dude, I got my car and drove home, dude.
Yeah.
And then, interesting enough, I took the same one in San Luis Obispo, passed it, and I left, and I went over to San Luis Obispo for about 5 months, and then I realized Central Coast law enforcement was not my jam.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
What were your first months like as a probationary firefighter in Visalia?
Yeah, just learning. I was downtown, obviously our main station, so worked on, in everybody's familiar. We had at the time 5 stations. Our downtown station was the biggest station because we ran an engine and a truck company. So there's 6 to 8 people, working if there was fully staffed. But it was really just the first months, I think, as a probationary firefighter, we got hired. We came in as laterals, and it was myself and another firefighter, Miguel Oseguera, came in, and he was former Navy, and he worked down in Barstow. So he was a lateral. He comes up. We both get hired together, start the same day.
I love Miguel, by the way.
Yeah,
good dude.
Great dude. And so he comes up, and at the time in Visalia, we really did not have any formal training for us. I mean, they didn't have a layout. They just said, "Hey, guys, I want you guys to hit all the stations, introduce yourselves, all 3, all the shifts, because you'll meet them all." We worked Monday through Friday, and when we were going through the process, and it was only 2 weeks, so we did a 2-week orientation, and then we went right into probation. But we ended up just testing ourselves, and we were like, "Man, what's going on? There's nobody testing us. There's nobody, yelling at us. There's nobody doing any of that stuff." It was just more. So we ended up training ourselves. And,
Got it.
We just used our experience. We made sure we knew all our equipment, knew the SCBAs, quizzed each other, just like we ran our own academy, and we were just, that's how we got closer, man. We just ended up, helping each other out. But really, it was just getting to know the people and start running calls.
I would tell you something, man, and a lot of people don't realize this, but back, I came on to Visalia in 98. Dude, back then, if we hired you, there was about a 50% chance you were not going to make our training program. And then if you did make the training program, there was a pretty good chance you were not going to last your probationary year. And man, dude, for that first year at Visalia, dude, I tried to be perfect. I mean, I showed up early, stayed late, and here's the sad part. I realize now, as far as a cop goes, I know about 1/100th of what I should have known.
Yeah.
But I just remember thinking, I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay here. And, and I've told kids that you can come to Visalia and you can think this is where I'm going to be. And dude, fate, I always say this, Murphy's Law has a say. And, I trained a lot of cops, and there's times I had to tell dudes, dude, you're a good dude, but this is too fast paced for you.
Right. Go
to a small agency, get your skills up, and then come back. And that's happened to a few guys here. But dude, that probationary time for anybody, it's stressful because guess what? Especially at Visalia, if they didn't like how you looked or how you did stuff, guys were just gone. Yeah. And I've seen people get dumped a week before they were supposed to get off probation. That right there is scary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because ultimately, here's the problem with cops and firefighters. You can throw them in there. Right. When you get fired as a cop, you have now lost A, your identity, B, how you put food on the table. Yeah. And I've seen it really, really take people and rock them. I'm sure you've seen that too.
Yes. Yeah. So, back then wasn't as stringent. It was really kind of train ourselves to make sure we were good with every crew. We didn't know who we were going to get signed to. Once we got our assignments, and then it was the process, then you start going out and you're training. And then the crews are actually, to get how we do in fire service is a little bit different. You're on that year of probation. Wherever you get your assignment and stuff like that, you start training with that crew so they can test you. You've already gone through the basic skills, just like you do in police academy, fire academy, and all that. We would go through now. We have depending on the size of the academy, it's up to either 6 to 10 weeks. We'd probably do it 8 to 10 weeks. I just saw
like 6 people that just graduated or something.
Yeah. Here's part of it. They started out with 6 and end up with 4 at the end.
Okay.
Right? Yeah, because we had some resignations through the process. So, it wasn't made for them. It wasn't their gig. They came from other departments or had some previous experience, ended up going back to their own departments, where they came from. So good for them. So they weren't totally out of it. But there's that point where you have that testing process. But it just, you mentioned the Visalia way when you have police officers, how we do it, is the same way, same thing in fire. It's just we all have different equipment. They need to know that. And, you just train them up to that point.
Got it.
To know it. Yeah.
How did the culture of the Visalia Fire Department shape you professionally? And how did it kind of shape your identity within the fire department?
Well, good culture. We had a lot of great people, that have come and gone, and came before us. Right. So, that we had, it was what I found were my position in the culture part of it was if I was an individual, I can, make myself better and find a position in it kind of thing and make it. So it was definitely open for people for growth. If they wanted to pursue different avenues, if there's investigations, there was, rescue teams and hazmat, all that different stuff. We had all these different pathways that people would take. Mine was more so on the training aspect of it. So at the time, training was done by individual crews, battalions. We have 3 shifts, an A, B, and a C shift. And, it would be up to the shifts to work together and do their own training and stuff like that. So really where I found myself in the culture was that I wanted to push myself to the training aspect of it.
Got it.
Going to conferences, trainings, and then bringing back those what we call those life skills or those hands-on skills and bringing them back to other, the department and sharing them with everyone. So it made everybody better. If it was something in firefighter survival or, even incident command, anything that, every class that I went to, way of bringing it back. So that was my passion, my drive.
Yeah. What does earning trust in the firehouse really take?
What's it really take? It's just taking, being, open and truthful with everybody, right? Not pulling on a persona, not pulling them, if you try to say you're one way and then you do it in another way, or you're not that way, then you're just giving up false hope, or a sense that guys, they figure out each other pretty fast. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think it really just means that if, you're just being open and honest and doing the best you can, right? Because that's all people want from everybody. We don't want to see people fail. Obviously, you've gotten this far, gotten through the processes. You've gone through the academy, gone through the internal academy, all that kind of stuff. We really don't want to see people fail, but during that probationary process and stuff like that, they really want to test you to see what kind of person you're going to be.
Oh, yeah.
See if you're going to be one for good for 30 years, right? Just like
Yeah.
you guys doing PD. Are you going to be the type of person that's going to be able to handle the type of calls we go on, working in the teamwork environment, and being part of that. There's a lot of guys that just didn't grab that sometimes, they just, whether or not it was just their personality or if they just, didn't want to play ball right or not. They just didn't grab it right. So
I don't know, and I don't know if it's as well. I know it's not as bad as the PD, but I will say this, and this is a hard part. Visalia PD, we have a very high standard, and a lot of guys would come in and not meet that standard. But I also saw the trauma of the job, and I think there was a lot of guys that self-imploded from that trauma. I don't see you guys do that as much.
Not as much. From the fire service standpoint, you guys work solo, right?
Correct.
I mean, if VPD, TCSO, see everybody surrounding us are usually running solo units.
Yeah.
You guys take on a little more, the implosion you're talking about is just taking internalizing all those feelings, those calls, everything that you've, go through the process with. For us in fire, a little bit different. We have, we source it out. I mean, if we have a bad call, you guys are still on scene or something to that effect, it's turned over. We go back to the firehouse and then, we do this. We sit across the table from each other, grab a cup of coffee, whatever it may be, and talk it out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, what's good's, bad's on that call? Could have done better, worse. I mean, was there anything we could have done really, differently? That helps us in a sense, to get that off our chest a little bit. But as far as the serious calls, we're the same way. There's, cops and fire are pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
Do a lot of internalizing and stuff like that. We've just tried to open up avenues now with formal ways of doing it, like peer support and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Having guys on the line where we have actually guys picked out that are good talkers or good listeners and go talk to those other firefighters. And if they have run a bad call, they run a child drowning or something to that effect, they go talk to them and just let them talk, and just say, hey, what was the call? I mean, what were you guys up against? You guys know some of this stuff. Sometimes they're into the facts part of it, or there's sometimes they get involved in the, what were some of the circumstances surrounding it? Like, oh, we knew this was a bad call.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right. Oh, yeah. Mom left her and just didn't even look for her for a while or something. Or the parents or whatever it may be. But, so we do a little bit differently in that sense. I mean, it's just because
I think you guys do it better
Yeah.
than police in that sense. Cause I think too much in law enforcement, I think we're just like, hey, suck it up and let's move on. And this, bro, I was good at sucking it up, but I will tell you this, man. I was also very vocal where, me and the guys, I would take that leadership role of talking about it. Then we also developed, gallows humor, which is it's not professional, but for our mental health,
Yes, right.
It was.
Right.
And what I tell guys is I think too much guys in law enforcement, I think they internalize it too much. And then I've seen it destroy people. And so I think you guys do a better job at that than us. You promoted to engineer in 2002. How did your responsibilities change?
You change going from sitting backwards to driving, in a sense, right? The engineers in most departments, they're the chauffeurs, the drivers. Responsibility changed from a standpoint of not going into it right now. I mean, from a call, but not initially. As a firefighter, I fought a lot of fire and, first in, that kind of stuff. Those were the jobs, when you got a job and you were excited about getting a good fire, you wanted to go, put it out and do the right thing and, got rescues or whatever. But as an engineer, job changed. You're now just making sure that the guys on their inside are getting what they need, right? They got the water pressure, everything else, everything goes well. You're getting water to your unit, whatever it may be, engine, truck, whatever it was, and just making sure everything's happening on the outside. First 5 to 10 minutes of an engineer on a working fire is probably the most busiest. But after that, kind of slows down because guys are pretty much after 5 to 10 minutes, after they're set up, they're going inside, doing their work inside. They pretty much either get the job done or it gets worse and they have to come out. Then we take a different approach. But It was just a different skill set, hydraulics, knowing, the engine, equipment, all that stuff. And then working with other engineers, if it was a large fire, working with either getting them water or them getting you water to continue on with the firefight kind of thing. So just a different role, responsibility. Knowing streets.
I don't think I ever seen you guys lose a firefighter. Have we lost firefighters here?
Not in a fire that I've been in 30 years, but we've lost firefighters that were line of duty, off duty, but due to cancer.
Okay. That's right, because you guys are breathing all the crap.
Sometimes The unfortunate part that they don't realize they've got something going until something happens. They get major headaches or something. We've had 2 firefighters. One in 1998, 2 years after I started, was a captain, retired. 2 years after he retired, developed glioblastoma, which was cancer, brain cancer. He ended up passing away from it. We established our honor guard, and I've been a member of that my entire career. And then 2011, we lost a firefighter. It was Frank Reed, and we lost him to cancer also. Brain cancer, glioblastoma, same cancer. And he realized, and he was a young guy. He was in his 40s, and but it wasn't, so ended up being job related.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it sucking in all the smoke?
It's all the things. Higher chance of the potential, all the carcinogens and bad stuff. Yep.
What leadership lessons did you learn as a fire captain starting in 2006?
Basically knew the people, and now just how to the sense of the change of direction is that you go from that buddy to boss kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
that transition, right?
And that's a hard transition.
It is.
I've seen some guys maneuver it well, and I've seen too many guys that really messed it up.
Yeah. But knowing whatever crew I came up with, knowing your crew, you're the shuffle goes on, you get the promotion, but then you get to know your crew and who it's going to be, because there's a lot of moving and shaking going on during that time. But the year I got promoted was the year that we ended up putting that 6th station in place. That was when Cal Fire ended their contract on the east side. So we had that southeast section of the city that was covered by Cal Fire at one point. But they ended their contract and didn't want to cover. So we had to do something. The city of Visalia had to do something. So we ended up starting an extra engine crew. Didn't even have a station yet out there built, but we ended up putting the crew in place that they would go east. That was their main responsibility, southeast. That was the reason that we ended up expanding our crews and going to that. And I think it was just a transition of, the leadership part of it was now how to motivate them, right?
Yeah.
Keep them motivated and do the right things. But at that point, I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, I had a crew that was, probably the not most motivated, but we all knew we were a crew together. Our sit down at the kitchen table was, hey, we all know each other's expectations, and I want everybody to know their job, but I want you guys to do your job with me not having to do it. The fire ground's not a training ground. Yeah. So, and just making sure that's, again, don't freeze up, those kind of things, just like you would do as a police officer in a situation where it's hitting the fan. Your lives are dependent upon each other.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
So I really wanted to just promote the crew concept and teamwork and make sure that everybody knew their role.
Got it. Yeah. Becoming the department's first training captain was groundbreaking. What was your vision for that role?
During that time, so my vision was pretty much, I would say I didn't really have that vision when I got promoted to it. We had a chief at the time that came from a department from the outside, fire chief, and he had a kind of the vision. And it really was, he was putting the right people in the right places, right kind of thing. And taking his vision and making it work. Right. So we did that. He at one point came from a department, already had a training vision. We hadn't established one yet and had a training facility.
Where'd he come from?
Nelson came from, where did he come from? He came, I'm trying to think. No, that was, come to me. Can't remember right now where he came from.
Big city?
It was a bigger city than us. Yes. Bigger city than us.
Got it.
And a couple of them that came to us from outside have been, either somewhat close to us or bigger. His was bigger. And I remember that he had a training division and had a vision for it. And it was just, really all my responsibility was open new facility, which we had. It was a new fire station with a training ground. on it, just kind of a burn building and all these different props and stuff, and really expose it to the outside. You know, we knew it was going to be a field of dreams when we built it. That we have all these other smaller departments that we knew were going to need it and use it.
Is that 51 or?
It's 55.
55. Oh, yeah.
Shirk and Ferguson.
Yeah.
Yep, 55. So open that one up.
Well, I'm a master storyteller, and I got a story for you. Okay. So in law enforcement, we often say your last call of the night can be your last call of your life. There's something about that last call. It's got bad juju on it. And I don't know why, but it always happens. Okay. So I'm working 2 to midnight. It's 11:15 at night. I'm parked in a parking lot. I'm finishing up my paperwork for the night. Because at 11:30, we're going in, we're calling it. And so I get sent, me and one other dude, we get sent to a call up at Liberty in Houston, a man outside of his ex-girlfriend's house, waving around a gun, threatening to kill her. Roger that. We're heading that way. As we're get close, dispatch puts out that he's got a tan 80s Olds Cutlass, and it's parked in the driveway. Right when we get there, we see the car. My partner parks right behind the suspect. I park behind my partner's car, so we're 3 cars deep.
Okay.
We come out. The minute I step out, I've already got my gun in my hand because it's dark. We can barely see, and something just didn't feel right to me. So I'm like, the gun is out. I'm ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people standing around watching this, right? Yeah, because it's all those apartments right there, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. And so we're walking up, and he comes out of nowhere. Well, we immediately go to guns.
Right.
And we're like, show us your hands, show us your hands. But we're still pretty far back from his vehicle. Mm-hmm. Dude, he goes over, opens the trunk, reaches down, puts something in his waistband, closes the trunk, and sidesteps and starts going towards the car. Now we're advancing.
Right.
And my partner's in front of me, and he's a lot bigger than me. Big man.
Right.
Suspect leaves the driver's side door open all the way. What we didn't know was the car was already on. This guy was a mechanic, and he had tuned that car where you couldn't even hear that motor.
Really?
We're approaching. All of a sudden, he puts it in reverse, mashes that accelerator. The door hits my partner, throws him into me, and we both go tumbling. He hits my partner's car, which then hits my car, and forced both cars out into the street. Okay. 2 things. Number 1, I was so pissed off. I literally could see red. I was so mad because, number 1, he could have killed us. Mm-hmm. Now my car and these cars are mashed up out in the road. But by him hitting that car for whatever reason, it killed the ignition.
Okay.
So he's trying to get it started.
Right.
My partner opens a door, cracks him right here with a stick, and breaks his arm. And he had long hair. So I reach in the car, wrap that hair around my wrist, and yank him out of that car. And the fight's on. And man, I'm hitting this dude with everything I got. And he starts going for that waistband. And so I take my gun and I ram it all the way into his mouth. And I remember I go, you pull out that gun, I'll blow your head off. So finally, other people get there. We finally get him in handcuffs, and there's people standing out there. And this is kind of pre-cell phones, right? So
right.
You know what I mean?
Nobody didn't have video.
Yeah. But people were like, I remember like citizens were walking up to me and they were like, man, are you guys okay? Yeah. And I was like, and I mean, we were covered in, it pushed it off in like some dirt. And so, my uniform's completely trashed. Right. But we end up going to court. and they gave him 4 years. Attempt murder on police officer with vehicle, plus, terrorist threats on the girlfriend and all this other shit. But I tell people that story in this. Think about that last call, and the day had been a calm day, but that last call could have been my last call forever.
Right.
By the grace of God, it wasn't. And that was not the last time that me and that particular partner had our lives put on the line.
Right.
There was something about every time me and him went to a call, I don't know what it was.
Black clouds. Huh?
It was, man. But
clouds.
I always knew this. He was a force to be reckoned with, man. I was a wrecking ball. He was a bigger wrecking ball than me, man. Why was training so important to you personally?
I think it was just a great way, a great outlet for myself to not only make my skills better, but to then give them to somebody else, and make our department as a whole, right?
Yeah.
If it was something, regardless of, new technique, maybe getting a new prop, going to a conference where they had some props and we didn't have those, but they worked well with getting guys to either learn how to force doors or, forcible entry, that kind of stuff. Those were the kind of things that, like, hey, we really need to do something like that.
Yeah.
Or, learning from other people's experiences, other departments, where they've had some calls where they, just the storage of their equipment made a big deal because it degraded some of their equipment or, just on the engine. Because we carry, a toolbox, right? That's what those engines are. Just tools for everything. You name it, we have a tool for it. But, just bringing that kind of stuff back kind of not only sharpened my skills, made me a better person. At the time, I was a training captain, but I was by myself, wasn't on an engine. But it was good to get offer those skills to another person that didn't get a chance to go to that same class or something, and bring it back, and then just goes through the department, makes them better, everybody better. So that was my. How
much does a brand new fire truck cost?
Oh, they're over $1 million now.
Okay.
Yeah, they're over $1 million. I mean, they're just the way as much steel as they put on them and everything else. But yeah, that's just for the engine itself, and then you go equipping it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's $200,000 to $300,000 worth of equipment to put on.
Wow.
Yeah, to put in the compartments. So yeah, they're expensive. I mean, we have 2 new engines before I retired. I had apparatus program, and we had just ordered 2 new engines and a truck. The truck, which is similar to the one that we have downtown now, is just under $1.5 million.
Okay.
$1.5 million. Yeah.
Well, and then but they last for 20 years, right?
Yeah, we try to get them to at least last over minimum 20. We have some engines now. I mean, our oldest engine right now is late 91. I think a 91. I mean, just then that's encouragement word for our shop for keeping them on the street that long.
Yeah.
Replacing them and stuff. Yeah, they've gone through some major overhauls. They've either got a transmission or maybe a new pump or something to that effect, but they're still out there. Still running on the street. Yeah. So yeah, we take ours to almost 30 years. 17 on
well, and I would tell you this, VPD, the cars, I mean, dude, they're trying to push these cars to 110,000 miles. And I don't know how they do it. Right. And, we've brought that up. Mm-hmm. I think they should get them out at 80,000, you know what I mean? But we also realize there is a dollar amount that is attached to this stuff. But dude, we do hard miles on a patrol car.
Exactly.
Dude.
Same thing on engines. They're not like garbage trucks or anything like that. They're pretty much not they're running speed limit. They're doing their job. But engines, I mean, they go from sitting in the station cold to being a big diesel to running it on calls at 2 o'clock in the morning and then shutting it down again, where it didn't run for that long, only ran for maybe, let's say, half an hour or so. So it's hard on those diesels and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a compliment to our shop that, those guys over there, they would keep those things. I mean, they ran cop cars, they ran fire, they ran the garbage trucks, for that whole entire city fleet. It was a lot of work for them.
Oh, dude, I would tell you something. Yeah. And again, I just think Visalia, they do it better than most.
Yep.
And, I don't care what service it is. I mean, the fleet, they do a damn good job. You've described yourself as a student for life. Where did that mindset come from? Because I'm the same way, brother. Right.
The student for life mentality is just in this job, and I say police, fire, what we do. Once you stop learning or, give up to the point where you think you've learned it all, then you probably ought to, that's the point where you probably ought to get up. And I've heard that said by many people, at conferences or speeches or, listening to former, fire chiefs or to that effect, where once you get into this job and you think you've known it, you've got it all, figured out, and you know it all, and you don't want to stop, that just kind of gives you that mindset that something could happen. Something bad could happen, right? You guys get, we could all either get complacent or, you let your guard down. And then something happens in this job. So the student for life mentality really kind of resonated with myself by just wanting to always learn, this job, technology is always changing, the mentality, the job's pretty much been the same. It's a blue collar job, just like yourself, in PD, where you've got people and they're doing their job and their boots on the ground kind of thing. That job's always been the same, but the technology behind it, computers, all those different things, if you don't stay up with the change of them and stuff like that, you get behind. Right? And so it really is, the student for life mentality has always been about just staying up with, change of the business and the job.
I've often said this, especially in law enforcement. I used to learn something every day.
Yeah.
Every day. And, even now, bro, shoot, I've been out 5 years and I'm still learning, man.
Yeah.
And, how did attending conferences and bringing skills back to elevate the department, how did that kind of keep you motivated?
Well, from a standpoint, when I was in training, we started, besides if I didn't have the new boots on the ground, because that's what we started as our training officer actually ran all the academies, right?
Got it.
So in charge of the new recruits coming in. So if I didn't have an academy in session with the newest of all firefighters, then it was just about maintaining the skill sets of the firefighters that we have, that were in the job. So I think what kind of resonated, the conferences and everything else, bringing them back, was a great opportunity to go to those kind of conferences and see the things that are being done in like LA City. What do? They have a high profile for where they have lots of bars on windows, those kind of things, those types of fires where they've had those kind of incidents. What can we do? What's the equipment that we need to have in case we run into something like that? And just bring those back and let, if we needed something to, that we could put on the engine, we change it or something like that. We change it, because it would be something option. People out there using it. So it was just a great way to bring back different ideas, different, skill sets to our people. And whether they learn from it or if it helped them in their job, their own personal, skill set, if they added to theirs or not, it was just at least it brought up everybody, whether they had them or not.
What type of budget does the fire department run off of a year?
They run on this, but about 35 million a year.
That's big.
That is big. They run, for all the personnel, and say this on budgets and stuff like that, of every city you look at, 80% of the budget is public safety.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Police and fire.
I know. I think Vice has got to be, I'm gonna say the PD is probably 40 plus million.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys are
I know
almost
fire is big.
Yep.
I've often said, I always knew that the PD was the lion's share, and then everything breaks off from there.
And that's probably pretty much the normal nationwide set.
Yeah.
Police departments are usually about a 2-to-1 ratio to fire. Only because they're, they got to have more, 3 shifts, 24/7, but they have them, they're single units. They're not engines like us, where we have 6 stations and, 3 people on an engine kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
no, I get it.
A little bit different, a little bit of staffing differences, but same concept. So twice as many people, twice as many, units, police cars, that kind of stuff, fleet vehicles.
What did it mean to be promoted to battalion chief in 2012?
2012, I was 3 years into being a training officer. During that time, as a matter of fact, that year was current union president and training officer, and then going through a promotional process. So a lot of things going on. I had almost felt like in my perspective is that I had like a foot on both sides. I was like, I knew I was never going to go back on an engine, being the training officer and stuff like that, but just had a lot of things going on. Just life was busy. I mean, we had academies going on, union president at that time, 2010. I don't know if you remember back then, that was when we were going through those furloughs.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the economy dumped on us and, we just were all feeling the economic hardship of it. And so lot of stuff going on. In fact, we went door knocking as a union, saying that, hey, we're going to lose 4%, well, we were getting doors slammed on us because, CDC or anybody else, they were getting 10 to 15% from them, cutting and stuff like that. So hard time from a let's say association union standpoint, and then going through a promotional process at the same time. So very busy, but rewarding in the sense that I got promoted. I was actually in an academy, teaching an academy as a captain. I ended that academy as a battalion chief. So, and I was teaching for 6 weeks, right? So in that process, besides teaching an academy, staying up and falling asleep, I was, it was narcoleptic, man. And my wife had dinner and then was falling asleep at the table. She goes, hey, what are you doing? I don't know. I'm not falling. I'm just hitting the wall,
Yeah.
But teaching an academy and then trying to go through my own promotional process and study for it was a lot. But did it, didn't take away from it and stuff like that. But yeah, it took on the challenge.
Did somebody already take your spot?
We didn't have anybody taking my spot yet. No, because I hadn't vacated it yet. So didn't know I was going to get promoted, but I was still in that process, right? So it's and not so much a physical agility or anything else in a battalion chief process. It's more technical. It's more, didactic. It's more
also too
scenario based.
Now you're also getting into the political realm of
get into a little bit different. It's administrative yet operations at the same time. Right? Yeah. So one step above, being a captain and stuff like that. But definitely another challenge and not something I didn't want to do. But yeah, just a busy time at the time.
Well, I bet you a nice little pay bump too.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was going. Again, remember 12. It was when times were coming around. So, yeah. But we had to take some furloughs in 2 years prior to that before salaries got better.
Your passion for firefighter survival stands out. Why did that area speak to you?
Spoke to me in a couple of different ways, from being going back and like I said, being a member, and not only a member, but then before I left, I was the honor guard lead. But seeing from other departments, not just our own, we didn't have any line of duty deaths on the job in working. They were off duty, but associated with the job. But we have gone to different funerals of different firefighters that have had tragic accidents and stuff like that. Firefighter survival was a passion to me that I, early in my career took on because I wanted to, that was an area where it was very, very hands-on. You had to have skill set, but it was probably, it's kind of like, when you have a police officer in need kind of thing, you guys go out as a 1099?
Yeah.
1099, Maydays for us in the fire service, right? It's a firefighter's worst time, right?
Yeah.
They're caught up in a jam and they're in a fire, building collapse, whatever it may be. Something's happened. It's got them caught up, that they can't get out themselves. Now they need to ask for help. And the biggest thing was, my passion was this: if somebody did that and they did it soon enough, then the process of getting to them a little sooner by either other firefighters or a specialty team we call the rapid intervention team. If they could get to them sooner, they can get them out and they'd live that fire.
Yeah.
But if they let their ego get in the way, if they didn't have the skill set to be able to try to work themselves out of that jam, then they perish. They die. They die inside that fire. So, it was a personal thing that I took upon, seeing that it was just a way to teach firefighters that, and we did it on purpose during the training. I mean, we made it hard on them, but we also wanted to see at the time that what's their mental capacity, both new firefighters and seasoned firefighters, people that have been on the job for a while. We wanted to make sure that they had the skill set and the competency to slow their mind down, to think clearly, to get themselves out of that jam.
Yeah. You know what, man, there's something about me. I don't know where it comes from. I didn't have fear.
Yeah.
And that is good and it's bad.
It can be bad too.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And like even when we would train with you guys out there with the fire and you guys would have the fire over our heads.
Right.
It used to freak out a lot of the guys.
Yeah.
Didn't freak me out.
Yeah.
I liked it when there was the 4 guys in the car with the AK-47s that didn't want to be taken by the cops.
Right.
Those are the guys I want to go after.
Right.
Because anybody can go out and take the report because your typewriter or your bicycle was stolen.
Right.
That's not my jam.
Right. Taking down bad guys.
I want to go after the worst of the worst because I think in that way. I used to tell a lot of these crooks out here, a lot of cops are predators with a pack of wolves. I'm a predator by myself, right? Because that's how you have to think,
right?
Because we are going against bad folks. And, but you're right. You got to be able to keep your head in the worst situations. When everything else is collapsing around you, what's going to get you out is
the mentality part, right? Keeping your head straight, keeping your thoughts right, knowing, seeing, not tunnel visioning. You mentioned when it's hard to do, and same thing happens in fire as listening to some of your previous guests. They talk about you get in a firefight or something to that effect. Talking when you guys are in getting a shootout. Same thing in fire. We put on even masks. The masks that we wear and stuff like that. That takes away our vision.
Yes,
right?
It does.
So really, in a fire, our peripheral vision is actually shrunk. And so we don't have that awareness kind of thing of what's going on around us. So that's why it takes more members to see, kind of like if there's a ceiling and it's not looking good, like it's going to collapse. That's where you pull somebody back and say, hey, somebody that's behind them, and they're driving to get into the seat of the fire or something to that effect. Just the teamwork concept.
I tell you something, man. I've seen you guys go into some gnarly fires, dude, and it takes guts. It does. And, I think that there's something noble about police work. I think there's something noble about fire, because here's the thing. If you really want to strip everything away, we're trying to protect people. Right. We're trying to, you guys are saving people. We're trying to protect people.
Yep. There's
a nobility in that. But there's also a sacrifice in it too. PDs, I mean, we don't bat a very good average in marriages. I think that, recently we've seen a bunch of cops get arrested. And it's sad because I see that if not for this job, I've seen this job just twist people inside out. I think that's where you guys do better than us in that respect. Now there's no, I always say this, there's no utopias. There's no perfection,
right?
But I don't see the implosion of fire as in police.
And it is happening though. It's out there, and unfortunately, I mean, the different generation. I think that we just need to. It was easy to have that those open conversations previously in previous generation, right? The newer generation, not we have to make them and to the point of opening up because of the fact that they're not doing it. So you got these young cops, you got young firefighters that like I said, if they internalize it and take it home, it affects other things, right? Their marriages go bad. They're taking bad calls. My wife's a nurse now, been a nurse for over 20 years, and it was easy for her. I mean, you knew just if she had a bad shift, she'd talk about it, at her will, but there's always times for us to kind of bounce back, calls and stuff like that. So really it's about, even if you don't take it home, you got to be able to communicate it with somebody, regardless. If it is your spouse, it's the only one that you're at home. But I mean, if you internalize it and you internalize it at work and you internalize it at home, who are you talking to if you're not getting professional help, right?
No,
so
I totally
if you're not reaching
agree.
out, you gotta be able to say something to someone.
I agree. I totally agree.
So.
And I think that's where PDs have, like I've brought this up, I think there should be a full-time psychologist for fire and PD. They could have it there at, downtown, because we see the worst in humanity at times. Right. And it's very hard to not become jaded. It's very hard to not internalize this stuff. And I've seen it just twist people inside out.
We've had some guys too. I mean, you guys have had some guys where, they either go through the addiction route or something.
Oh, yes.
We've had some firefighters done the same thing, that just internalize the calls or taking bad or retire out from the PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
And, so it's in both. I mean, public safety is, like I said, you see people at its worst, you see situations at their worst, but you say that we keep, we do a better job in fire standpoint. I think it's just a point that we recognize it, and only because public safety. And we even had some guys, I listened to a conference where some San Diego firemen got in a call and they're helping a homeless guy. and another guy, and they pushed the guy back that originally was there and didn't realize it, but it pissed him off to the point where he pulled the knife on the guys and ended up getting 2 of the firefighters. Stabbed them, right, down in downtown San Diego. They all had to go through some counseling on that and stuff like that. That broke up that crew. They'd been working together for a while. They all went their different ways. One of the captains who shoved the guy ended up, domestic violence, became an alcoholic, and, it was domestic violence at home and stuff like that. So it really kind of just broke up their crew, and it's all because of one call where a guy.
Oh yeah. And I always say
crazy.
that you can do everything right and it can still go bad.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you think everything's going good until, one thing.
Yes.
It's all around.
Oh yeah. Well, we say this in law enforcement, and I'm sure there's some truth to it with you guys too.
Right.
You can have a million attaboys. It only takes one shit to erase all that.
Yep. That moment.
When did you first become certified as a survival instructor?
Oh, let's see. I started taking classes back in 2002. I was going down to San Diego for a lot of classes. They used to have this thing called Firehouse World. It was down there. It was in the early 2000s. We'd go down there almost every year, get training. It would be a conglomerate of East Coast firefighters coming over to the West Coast, training New York guys, Baltimore, you name it, Indianapolis. They all would come to the, West Coast only because it's down in San Diego in February. It's good weather. And we'd all train together. I mean, there was be like 5,000 firefighters down there.
Wow.
So yeah, all get together. But again, lots of social networking, lots of work going on down there, lots of training and stuff. So great training. I think it really, that was when I saw, when it took the passion on for the firefighter survival part of it, is a lot of guys in New York. New York City, biggest department in the United States. They go into all these different high rises and stuff like that because there's no space. So everything's a high rise. And there's a lot of times where they get firefighters trapped in fires and stuff like that because they're going up high, and, fire changes just like that. Conditions change. So there was a lot of firefighter survival techniques and trainers that came out of the East Coast, and in a big department, obviously. But really it was just working with those guys and that bringing that to our department, not only it's all over, but really just taking up the passion for that. We ran some great trainings. I mean, I was a student then at the time. I wasn't an instructor, but just being a student of those classes was making myself so much more confident. That I got a fire, that I felt more confident in my skill sets, that I just took the passion on to be able to pass that on to people.
Yeah, dude. I would tell you this, dude, New York Police Department is the biggest. I think they're like 38,000. Yeah, dude.
Fire's 20. Yeah.
38,000 police officers, dude. I mean, that's massive, dude. I mean, even 20,000 fire department.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, those are cities, bro.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
They're big over there.
What are the most common mistakes firefighters make under stress?
Not reverting back to their training. I think they get, their mindset. They can go off really quick. And it takes, not even just a fire, but a medical aid. 70% of our calls are medical aids. Yeah. So you talk about CNSB and having all that equipment. We're good with that equipment because we use it a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, so 70% is pretty much our standard for EMS calls. But I would say that, if they make a decision, stress-oriented decision can be made wrong.
Yes.
Right. So it is based on the stress of it. It's the situation. They just aren't thinking straight. They may screw up a dose of, let's say, medicine, pharmaceutical, or, they're given a medicine, but they give the wrong dose. Sometimes that can screw up. Yeah. It can kill somebody, right? Just giving them too much of something, that they need, right? So I think it's really been the biggest thing that we see is stress-oriented mistakes. They're in a stressful situation, they make the wrong decision.
I would tell you something. I remember back in the days where you guys would give the Narcan.
Mm-hmm.
We're carrying Narcan on us now.
Yep.
I never had to use it on myself, but I mean, I Narcaned a lot of people, man. And, but a lot of times we got told, if you get exposed to fentanyl, Narcan yourself, man.
Yes.
And what I tell people, it looks like a plunger, but you got to stick this thing up your nose and then pump this stuff into your brain to counteract the fentanyl.
Yes.
I don't know a lot, Darrin, but that sounds scary, brother. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you need one dose, you get a second dose. You do it twice. Yeah.
And, but those are the times we're living in. And, think about back when we started, man, because our careers are pretty similar in a lot of ways. We didn't deal with that stuff back then. Back then we were dealing with either, they overdosed.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it heroin or was it meth?
Yeah.
Those were the two things.
Yep. No. Now everything's laced with everything.
Yes.
Everything's laced with everything.
And times have changed.
Yeah. Just had a police officer before. It was a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Guy passed out at a gas pump. That means and he recognized it enough to know that it was possible fentanyl. And it turns in for us, the fentanyl overdose has turned into a hazmat, really, because
everybody else exposes them.
The exposure part of it. If anybody else touches it, they're going down. It's getting into their system, and they're fainting out, and they're going into respiratory arrest. Guy didn't kill himself, but comes around, and we asked him, "What's in your vial? What's in your car?" And he said fentanyl. So cop made the right call by calling it out and got us there from the fire department. And we ended up bringing some guys, and we didn't have to go into full suits or anything, just Tyvek, just had to make sure that nobody got it on their skin or anything. Right. And wasted it up. So
I've said this on one of my other episodes, but one of the crime scene people from TCSO, she got exposed to it. And I asked her, what was it like? And she said, I went from stone cold sober to the drunkest I've ever been in 30 seconds. Yep. If they hadn't had Narcan there, she would be dead, bro.
Yeah.
And, that's scary, bro.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's some stuff.
Can you share a training moment where you knew you truly made a difference?
Training moment.
Or something you learned in training that.
Yeah. It really did. I think I learned, I would say I learned in training, but I mean, it just really was a moment, and for myself, kind of a close call kind of thing. But, ventilation, right? We go on these buildings, right? And we go and ventilate, we make our own holes. From my standpoint, or for myself, we had cut an original, it's a fire, but guys are still inside and they're not getting any relief. The heat's not rising. The smoke is still banked down, things that we would have thought happened with a good hole didn't happen. And we're going, what's going on? So we end up getting off the roof, ran out of a bottle. So and the bottle for us is an SCBA tank, which is a self-contained breathing apparatus, right? So they run us about anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes if we're under workload, right? They're half-hour bottles, but they run us about 20 minutes because we're breathing harder and faster.
Yeah.
Right? So ended up not getting any relief. So I said, well, we got to go back up there and cut another hole. My training was the fact that we went to that same hole as we were going transversing and stuff like that. The roof had gotten soft from the fire underneath and everything. And one leg fell in, oh, okay. Didn't all go all the way in, but just to the point where I straddled the top, we're on the ridge, and a leg falls in and gets caught up in the roofing material. Like, shit, I'm stuck. And then we stop, and the guy's in front of me turns around, comes around. Hey, are you okay? He said, yeah, I'm stuck, but my leg's jammed in here. So ends up getting it out. He just kind of pulls me up. All I needed was leverage, and we continue on. But it really was just kind of that mentality of, walking the line, not going off, but understanding that when we get on these roofs and stuff like that, not to freelance. That was part of my training, where I think knowing that I would have just not nonchalantly just kind of walked up to that same way, but not following a path. If we don't follow that path, things happen. And I think that's where my training kind of came in hand and really kind of got me out of jam. Again, I didn't fall all the way through, but there has been firefighters that have fallen all the way through from roofs and stuff that from that happening. Not knowing, right? We go up there thinking, everything's good, looks good, but then we get up there and we put our 250 pounds up there, and with all the gear that we're wearing, and we make a hole. Sometimes. Yeah.
How do you balance realism and safety when teaching survival techniques?
Being realistic, obviously, the mentality is that they know, the firefighters know that they're in a training situation. We have to get them out of that training mode and get them to where they think that they're really in a fire kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we add either some heat, or we add zero visibility, or we do something to try to put that mentality, like take away some of their senses and then give them those scenarios, because then they really have to think, oh, this is what it's going to be like. I'm going to be in a darked out situation. It's going to be smoke everywhere. I'm not going to be able to see, and I've got wires hanging all over me. So, that is what we had to do to take them out of the training mentality to make it kind of realistic as much as possible. We'd heat it up. We'd add fire to it. Like you said, fire overhead. We control it, but we would make sure that we heat up that room, zero visibility type of, situation scenario, that they actually go, oh yeah, this is different. And, we could take a big room, that training facility we had, we can take and make a maze out of that, a rat maze out of it. So these guys thought they knew every 16th room, 16 of the rooms, they knew them like heart. We would actually change them. And then when you add smoke and heat, in zero visibility conditions, it's different. So that's how we made it realistic.
And I will tell you this, when we would train out there, we were out there training with semi-munitions. And I'll tell you something, dude, you get shot with a semi-munition, it'll get your attention right now, brother. Yep. And, but I remember you guys would get the fire going, you guys get the heat going, then there would be zero visibility.
That smoke
and
machines,
then we're trying to do stuff in there, and that's a big building, and it's a couple floors, and so you got a lot going on, and it's easy. I could see it could get very easy to lose your head quick. There was something about guys like, me and some of the older dudes, we didn't sweat that, but I saw a lot of the new guys freak a little. Right. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Just added something it's not new to them. So again, it's in a training, training scenario that we would bring it to them, and understand it. But we'd rather have somebody not, do it right correctly in training versus out on the real deal kind of thing. So we stressed them, and that's all it was, just to add another level of stress to them.
Got it.
Yeah. That's all we made.
What mindset do firefighters need when things go wrong on a fire?
I think the mindset that they need is the fact that they have to go to a different plan, right? If something goes wrong, right, they go to plan A. Plan A is not working. Got to go to plan B, and not have an ego to let them know, get their ego out of the way. The fact that they're not going to win, right? Every fire that we go to, every call that we go to, just like you guys, is a battle, right?
Correct.
It's a battle. For us, it's, even though it's an EMS call and stuff like that, we make sure it's good. But fires are battles, all part of the big war. There's always, never ends. But that the concept is to teach them that if plan A is not working, plan B, if they got to have an alternate plan, to do something, whether they change it. Otherwise, what happens is that plan B fails and they don't have a plan, or the plan A fails, they don't have a plan B in place. The trigger points start getting worse and worse. That leads up to a firefighter mayday or something bad happening to somebody else on that fire. Well, again, you can't let your egos get in the way. Fact is, you got to just understand if somebody else sees something, and maybe you don't see it because now you've tunneled in on it a little bit more. Listen to somebody else. Listen to somebody else's, perspective, take it in and say that, maybe something's worked on a different type of fire or something to that effect. But you really got to be open to the fact that you got to be flexible. We just had those 6 recruits the 4 recruits that graduated. Their motto was Semper Gumby. Semper Gumby was there. Be flexible. Right. Be flexible at all times, because on a fire things change so rapidly.
Big time.
And so fire scenes and all that thing, they go very fast. But again, just like your guys' call, you mentioned Murphy goes with you guys. He's on the fire engine with us.
Well, so too, you know what? I mean, I've seen people drive over those fire hoses that you guys got.
Right.
I've seen fire trucks get stolen on calls.
You saw that one?
Right.
Yeah, here in Visalia.
I mean, I always say this, if it can go bad, it will.
Yeah.
And you know what? All we can do is do the best we can, but you know what? You cannot mitigate everything.
No.
You think you can,
right,
but you can't.
Yeah, you really can't.
And in police work, when I would train new cops, I used to say this, hey, brother, all we can do is give it the best we got. But remember, we're dealing with people. People are unpredictable. Things happen.
Right.
Now we're introducing mental health issues and with drug addiction. And, there was times, man, where it went south real quick. And, all we can do is all we can do.
Yep.
How did teaching survival change how you personally operated on calls?
like I said, I think it gave me a little bit more confidence, just more aware. I think it made my situational awareness go up personally, just on every fire, just being a little bit more that we knew this is another fire, we're going to do the same kind of things. We're going to put water on the fire, that kind of things. We're going to do it the best of our ability. But it opened up, and being on the lookout, the situational awareness, seeing the whole picture, getting that kind of stuff. And then when I, promoted through the ranks and became a captain, it's really what the captain's supposed to do is, engineer, or his firefighter is making the push, to get to the fire and stuff like that. That captain has got to have that essay, we call it, the situational awareness of looking what's going on around him and stuff like that. So I think the training that I had, the survival training that I had personally, made me more confident in that sense, that I felt more comfortable with my skills, but just gave me more awareness that I don't want to put myself in that situation, right? So if we can prevent ourselves from getting in that bad jam, getting jammed up, then so be it. Then it would just brought my awareness up a little bit.
Got it.
Personally.
In your opinion, what separates just a good firefighter from a truly great one?
A good firefighter from a great one, I think, is not only their skill set, but their as a person, right? Good with people, compassionate. They love the job. They're compassionate, but they also are passionate about the job, right? They loved what they're doing. It's a career, it's a calling, right? I think that separates, the good from the greats in any job. It really is just how much do they put into it? Are they just getting there for a paycheck? Are they 8 to 8 out the gate? Or are they there to make a difference or help, their other brothers and sisters on the job? Do they want to make something better? If it, trying to make it better for everyone, right? And, the job's ever changing, always going to be that way. So the greats actually put in and don't expect anything out of it, right? They just keep putting in and putting in.
I would tell you something, man. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I will, man. I wasn't just a good cop. I was an exceptional cop. And, but there was something in me that I just gave everything I had to give. Yep. And I think that separated me. And you're right. You have to pour back into what you're doing. And you can't fake it. You either really think that way or you don't. Yep. And like what used to piss me off is when I would see cops where I could tell they don't care. Mm-hmm. And when you don't care, it shows. And there was many times I've told a couple of dudes, quit, dude. Yeah, please. You know what I mean? This is not your jam, bro. Yeah. You know what? And go do something else. Yep. Because especially in what we did, if that person's expected to save me or save you and they don't care, I don't want that person around.
Right. Right. Same thing for us. I mean, it was just, you get around the table and everybody's, kind of bitching and moaning and groaning about everything going on. Really, it's the job is the job. Either like it or you don't like it. For those that bitch too much and, everything could have been better, go somewhere else and see that, go watch, see if the grass is greener on the other side, of the side of the fence and come back to us and let us know that, hey, they got the same problems. Doesn't matter how big they are. You go from Visalia to Fresno to Newport Beach, they all got the same problems. Same thing in fire, same thing in PD, that they've got the same problems. They're just, as one chief always told, once said, and I always shared it with everybody, it's the same circus, different clowns. And that's what we, it time. Really is. And doesn't matter where you go, know what city your name's on it. And so they're going to have the same problems. They're going to have the same hardships, and it's not it's not nirvana everywhere. You wish it would, but like I said, do the job. If you like the job and you pour back into it, you're compassionate about it. That's what separates the good from the great.
Yeah. I would offer this. I think that this job is a calling. I think what you did was a calling. I think you're either called to it or you're not. And I've seen a lot of people try to force because they like the paycheck or they like the uniform or they like something else. Yeah. But I used to tell people, you got to want to do this, man, because there's a lot of days you're going to be driving away going in. And I did this. Why did I ever choose godforsaken business of law enforcement? Right. We've both seen rough days, brother. Mm-hmm. And, so you got to be able to sustain yourself through those rough days by knowing this is what you were born to do,
Right.
or this is what you were called to do.
Yep. It's tougher for you guys. I'd say this, and the PD side, it's tough for you guys. 911 is nothing but crap for you guys.
Correct.
For us, 911 is crap, but then we try to make a difference, right? So we get a chance to make it better. We get that opportunity. So somebody's house is on fire and we stop it to one room and save the rest of the house. That's a win, right? So it's different from us from a standpoint that you guys are running into nothing but crap, and it turns out to be crap, whether it gets better or not. But really, you just got to know that regardless in public safety as a whole, that the job is trying to make a difference. You're going to run crappy calls. You're going to get into some crap you never probably ever want to see again. But we signed up to do it, right? And so we just have to know that we're going to see it, that there is a better day.
I totally agree. And I will tell you this. I think that people that do this type of work that we did, there's got to be something in you where you want to make a difference. And I think when guys don't have that mentality, I've seen it spin in a different way. My buddy he worked in Lindsay, where they're cops and firefighters.
Yeah, just changed it.
And he was saying that, like, hey, when he was in his cop uniform, he'd drive by and people would be like this. He's in the firefighter uniform and people want to hug him.
Yeah, they're waving.
And it's a whole different ball game. There was a call. Let's talk about the Marrakeen Mansion fire in 2000.
Okay.
For me personally,
you working nights?
I was there.
Were you there? All right.
So we get out there, and so for the folks at home, this was it was a large home that was going to be built, and the guy was a farm labor worker.
Yep.
And this thing looked like a hotel.
Sure.
And when I pulled up there to Shirk and Walnut, I will tell you this. It's the biggest fire I've ever seen personally.
Right.
I think those flames were a couple 100 feet in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, and it was so foggy that night.
Yep.
And I actually had to move my car because of the heat.
Melting off, yeah.
And it was, I will tell you this, bro, talking to you right now, I mean, like, I can feel it, right? Yeah. But what made that incident so significant?
I'll say that fire, again, the Marrakeen fire, it was actually that fire, you say large house and stuff. He was making, it was a miniature version of the Palace of Versailles. So there was a palace in France that he was making that house to look like. And for whatever reason, I don't know that, but it was actually what he was trying to build. It was still in framing. And the story behind it is that he was having, even as a farm labor worker, and he was a manager of the farm laborers. And he had his own business, and he was running into some financial difficulties. So the building of that house slowed way down. But prior to that, a lot of things that went up, the politics behind it. Okay. So the politics behind it is that our fire chief at the time, Carlos Rodriguez, lived in Shenandoah, which was that nice neighborhood that he was backed up to.
I was going to say, one street to the east.
One street to the east was Shenandoah residences. Now, these are nice homes. They're all custom, 2 stories and everything else. He lived in one of them. And so his wife ended up taking up the role of being kind of like a spokesperson for the entire neighborhood that said they were going to go fighting against the city building division, engineers, because he was requesting certain appeals and getting them granted to build this house. And what they were afraid of is even over their 2-story house, he was going to be looking down on them. He's looking down over it. It's almost 3 stories.
I was going to say, a lot of people were pissed off.
They were pissed
that he was going to look down on
their houses of a 2-story house. Yeah.
And I will tell you this, for the folks at home, when that fire happened, didn't it melt like their curtains or something? Oh yeah, melt.
I mean, it ended up going 2 alarms, almost a third. But majority of the third alarm was to protect the houses in Shenandoah.
All right, so when you say 2 alarm, that means?
Oh, that means just twice as many. If we get a first alarm, you get 4 units.
Got it.
Go to a second alarm, you get 8. You go to a third alarm, you get 12.
Got it.
And then you just multiply that times, 3 firefighters, if we were have to request mutual aid. At the time, we would only have 6 in the city. So, we had six units in the city and all of them went to that fire. We had to request other cities to come help us. So Tulare County Fire Department, the agency surrounding us closest would then bring us engines.
Well, and I would tell you this, we were having one hell of a time out there because everybody wanted to come out there and see
and watch it. Yeah, get some video. So, it's the foggiest night, by the way. It's in December.
It was
the
I
foggiest
remember,
night. Couldn't see.
And it was cold.
Yes, cold and fog.
But I just remember, like, I looked at another cop and I was like, I don't know if we'll ever see a fire this big again. Yeah. I mean, because it torched that thing.
Yep. So because it was under, fully involved, as you say, you guys got, there was, in cop terms, it was fully engulfed, but it was fully involved. Yeah, fully engulfed. You'll hear dispatchers call it sometimes, but it definitely was. In the nearest engine was from the airport. They're coming from that airport. Probably less than a 5-minute response, but they said they had more like an 8 to almost 9-minute response because of the fact they couldn't see. And you can't run when it's that foggy on an engine. Even on a cop car, you can't use your lights. You're not. You're just going just like a normal code 2 kind of thing. Because of the fact that it bounces off and it screws the driver's eyes up. So they ended up getting there and he called it out. He goes, "This is the mansion." And he goes, "There's fire from one end to the other." And that's how he called it. So you just knew it was going to be a crap show. And he calls a second and gets, the battalion chief that was working. I wasn't working that night. I heard it from home. I lived right, not too far in the southwest from it. I knew I was going to come back in for the second alarm callback and stuff like that. So, he ended up, we just protected houses. It blew out because of the heat. It blew out windows and stuff like that. Didn't lose any other homes, just a lot of heat damage, fences and everything else.
$1 million question. Was that arson?
Yeah, well, you can't say it's arson. Suspected arson, yes. Suspected arson. It was very suspicious to the fact that they brought out arson sniffing, carcinogen arson dogs, that are trained in sniffing out flammable liquids, all those different things, they hit multiple times on that house and the pad after they cleared out, the house. It was basically, like I said, it was under construction. The walls weren't formed yet. So it's just all sticks. It was like putting, a matchbox together and just lighting it on fire. Yeah. So it just went up all at once. So yes, we know that there was some help with it, some accelerants.
But nobody got convicted.
Nobody got convicted of it. Right?
I remember
and
that.
Then it turned into a political warfare, from the city because he thought that, with the fire chief, and his wife being,
there was a lot of, I was going to say, there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of mudslinging in the newspaper.
Going back, yeah. His attorney saying that the city was racist or being racist against him by building the house. It was none of that. But ended up, that chief ended up not becoming, or had to, that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back on that. He left shortly after that because there was so much political crap going on about that and his wife being involved.
Yeah. You were named Firefighter of the Year in 2001 and 2010. What did peer recognition mean to you?
2001, again, it was a lot, just being involved. I was still a firefighter, but a lot of the firefighter survival things, I brought a lot of that training back, a lot of some props we ended up buying that we didn't have that just made things better to be able to help out with. So that got recognized by peers on that. And I was still, like I said, there wasn't a training division or anything. It was just, getting involved in training and bringing something back that made everybody better kind of thing. And then 2010, there was a training division. I was 1 year into the training division, part of it, and just recognized for, like I said, the chief that I had that was the chief at the time that had that vision of what he wanted to do with starting up a new division and everything else, basically implemented that plan to make it worthy for the other departments and everybody else. We had other people using it. VPD came out there, used the heck out of it, canine trials, everything else. So it was just getting the exposure it needed. And, that took a year, because everybody wanted to use it and try it out and see what it was like, but it was also our personnel too. So we did a lot of training on it.
What did that thing cost out there?
So the whole project with the station and the training facility, which was a Class B facility, it was all ran on propane. It was started out that it was going to be $11 million project, and that's 2004. That was when it started, because 2004 is when we got that Measure T Special
Measure
sales tax.
T, yeah,
Measure T
yeah,
went
yeah.
through in 2004. And so we got a public safety sales tax, $0.25. And that's what helped fund it. Well, it was 11 million and it got cut back to about 7 million. They didn't complete the entire project, wasn't 100% completed. There was some props that were left off, but all said and done, after they separated the training classroom from the station, didn't have to build it to an essentials building type of building. It cut off some money. They ended up bringing it down to about 6 million, 6, 7.
Got it.
Just over 6 million.
Um,
It opened in 2009, by the way.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Started in 4, came to fruition in 2009. We opened in
Got it.
2009.
You know, we've done a lot of training out there,
Yeah.
and
Active shooter, you name it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
was really impressed. I
Yeah.
mean, the first time you go in there and you can see where you guys can put the fire,
Mhm.
and for the folks at home, you can actually walk down a hallway and there is fire right over your head,
Yep.
and it stretches the whole length of this hallway.
Right.
And then
rollover prop, they call it. Yep.
yeah, and then you guys could also induce smoke in there, where then it would we would train where it would obviously you can't see,
Right.
and you know, and then we would have to train to have like an officer down situation where now we're trying to drag these people out
Right.
with fire, with smoke,
Yep.
with everything going on.
yeah.
And so, you
Just
know,
add elements.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
it can get intense.
Yeah. It adds elements. Get your adrenaline up, that's for sure.
Walk us through the fatal crash on January 13th, 2006.
Yeah, the airplane crash you're talking about, the fatal
Correct.
crash. Yeah, this was a small aircraft. I'm on duty. I'm an engineer down at Station 52. We had lived right around the corner from 52 is the one at Mooney and Whitendale, the fire station right across. And comes in. We didn't know there was anything going on, to be honest. It was a pretty quiet night. Again, foggy. You know, there was some fog forming and stuff like that, kind of like it'd been foggy for the last 5 days or whatever. And the call came in to us at around 8 o'clock. Now, prior to that, which we didn't know at other stations and stuff like that, is somebody had stopped into the fire station out at the airport and said that they had witnessed a plane go down. And they thought they saw a plane crash. And so they keep driving. They come around the corner where Walnut dead ends and kind of curves around, turns into Aviation Drive. And turns into the softball fields. And then
I was going to say,
fire
the
station.
softball fields right there.
Right, right out there. So we're right across the street from it. They go up, and he actually knocks at the fire station and tells them, say, hey, I just saw a plane crash. And, you know, he's obviously nervous and amped up and everything else. And guys come out. It's around 6 o'clock. So it's around that time, dinner time and everything else. They're cooking. They go outside and they look towards the end of the runway, which was, he said it where he came from. And they're looking towards it. There is nothing out there. There's no smoke. There's no fire. There's no glow. There's no nothing. So they don't see anything. So it's a little bit foggy, but then all of a sudden, they see another plane just come in and land, you know, properly and everything else. So the decision was made. They ended up not going out. And that was probably the decision that probably would have been a lot different. They would have looked at that and, armchair quarterback. That would have been their decision.
Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, exactly. So they ended up not going out. 2 hours later, we get a call, and it's for a plane down, and it's at the end of the runway. It was discovered by TCSO. So how it works in Tulare County and Visalia City, usually 911 calls, if they're outside the county, will come in, and they go to Tulare County, the sheriff's office, and then they're transferred over to Visalia PD or Visalia Fire or EMS if needed, right? So it went to TCSO first. Well, they ended up sending deputies out onto the airport grounds looking for it. Ends up a deputy found it, and he finds the crash site. Guys are still in the station, still in the quarters. And now all of a sudden, it's a bigger call. Now we've gotten multiple units going out there. And at that point, the personnel that were on duty that night at Station 53, or now it was Station 3 at the time, they go out there and there's nothing they can do. I mean, all four victims have perished. The plane had basically augured into the dirt. It missed the runway, so it didn't hit asphalt or anything. It missed the runway by about 50 yards. So it's at the end of the runway.
And
Never
now,
came on.
I don't know if this is true or not, but did it burn?
No, there was no burning. It
Okay.
augured into the ground. It augured into the dirt.
Okay.
So the sharp thing. So for whatever reason, it did not explode, or the gas did not go.
See, and I'm glad
had no ignition sources.
And I'm glad we're talking about this because we had heard, and you know how the rumor mill is.
Sure.
We had heard that the plane went out there and they burned to death, and if the fire guys had went out there, they could have saved them. But it doesn't sound like that's the case.
That is not the case at all. Not at the case at all. So I end up being on, like I said, 52. I was an engineer at the time in 2000, and no, I take that back. I was still a firefighter, but driving, and we go up there, and our assignment was to secure the airport grounds, right? Because we knew that PD was coming in. TCSO was already on the airport grounds.
Plus now you got FFA coming.
Media, everybody, media would have been coming out. At this time, we didn't have stringers and stuff like that, but we had local media, Times Delta, that kind of stuff. They have scanners and everything else.
Yeah.
So it was just secure airport, and that's all our assignment was going to be. Ends up, we get the battalion chief gets on scene, gets out to the crash site, and calls us out and says, I want you guys to change assignment. Need you guys to respond out. The crew that went out there initially they came back to the station. And when we walked by him there, I'll never forget this, Jay, is that the fact I looked at one of the guys in his eyes, and you could just see he was just pale and his eyes are just huge. And I just looked right through him. It was like, what just happened here? And
you know what, brother?
crazy.
And you know what's sad is human error.
Yep.
Things happen. But here's the problem with what we do. There's not a lot of room for error.
Yeah.
And those guys, they did what they thought was the right thing at the time. Right. And obviously nobody walked out there, saw a plane crash, and it was like, hey guys, we're going to go back to dinner.
Right.
And even though I didn't know those guys, I remember thinking at the time, because this turned into a big deal.
It was.
And I remember thinking, those poor dudes.
Yeah.
I remember thinking they're going to beat on them like a rented meal.
Mm-hmm.
And were there terminations and all that?
There weren't any terminations, but the captain, there was a resignation, right? It was kind of a choice, right? Either resign or, kind of thing. So, unfortunately, that captain was a great person, good dude. Just didn't make the right decision to go out and see and look at the airport grounds, right, and just check it out. He thought that, I don't know what triggered them to think that citizen complaint, or that citizen, advising him that wasn't true. I think the plane's landing and looking like normal operations going on was kind of their thing going.
Well, also too, you would think that another pilot would have called it in.
Would have called it in. There was none of that. There was no other. We didn't receive anything from Rancho Murrieta, the other airports. Fresno being our nearest tower airport. That's actually staffed. So with that, we get the assignment going back out there, and we get out to the crash site, and it's a double prop Cessna, and ends up it had just basically augured into the ground. Now, our assignment was to cut the plane away from the victims, because basically everything just got smashed in, and so we could tell we had two children involved, and we had two adults. I remember there was
wasn't it like grandma and grandpa?
Grandpa was the pilot.
Grandkids.
Yes. Yep, and grandkids, and they're bringing them home. And they were coming back from Christmas or something, and the celebration. And so what had happened is, reading the report, because the report, and it went to court, and the city took litigation against it. These ended up going back to the crew. So there was a resignation of the captain of 27 years. There was a demotion of the engineer to back down to firefighter, so he lost rank. And then the firefighter that was involved was actually just penalized for a certain amount of hours, so like 40 hours. So suspended pay, basically. So there was loss of pay, loss of demotion, and then a resignation that resulted out of it. Lots of litigation out of it. What they ended up proving out was that the elderly gentleman, the grandpa, was had over-the-counter sedatives on board that were, fighting a cold and stuff like that. We know the way they looked at the approach and everything else of the plane, NTSB, the FAA doing all their investigations, found that as he was doing final approach, came in too low, and he wasn't high enough, and then augured in. Well, it ended up, just the way the approach happened and the speed that he was going, he just dove the plane right into the dirt, and it wasn't. Yeah, and there was no
I
explosion.
would tell you this.
Yeah.
People don't realize this. I learned this in the military. Most wrecks are pilot error.
Yeah,
They really
human
are.
error.
Yeah, they really are.
Human error. Yeah. Yep.
The hoarder rescue involving Jeanette Hayes was extraordinary. How did that unfold?
That one was just another day, working in the firehouse, and then we get the call for structure fire, just like anything else. We get there, don't know the address or anything like that. We're on a different engine, so we're at 52. I'm the captain at the time. That comes in 2008. And I look over, and we've got a fully involved house. We got deep black smoke. So as we're coming down Walnut, we can see it, coming off. It's just north of Walnut on, what was that? It was on, I can't remember the name. It's Julian, I think it was South Julian. So about the 1900 block, South Julian. And we see the header coming as we were going down Walnut. Well, we got working. We know we're just going to go to work. We're going to be first in. Know that. Got the battalion chief coming. We got the other units coming from downtown and across the city. And we get there. And I look over, and we're spotting the engine. I told my engineer I'd spot a hydrant for him. Let him know where he's going to get it. He's going to get his own water because we're that close, hydrant close to that house. And I get off, and all of a sudden I look over, and I got two cops. They're just throwing up black soot, and it's Daniel Ford and Jared Hughes, and they're just bent over, throwing up black, and I'm going, what's going on? And so I look over them. I go, hey, you guys all right? My firefighter's stretching hose. I'm getting ready to find out some information. They obviously got intel. They obviously went in for some reason. They went in for a rescue, and they just ate smoke, and they're just throwing it up now. And he goes, no, man, only way you're going to get in, and it's Ford telling me this. He to this day, he tells me, he goes, the only way you're going to get in is that side door. Everything else is barred up. We broke all the windows out when they had their SL-20s, and they broke out all the windows. And now this thing is just ripping. Oh, and there's smoke coming out every window. They have fed it. But the key to that whole call was that Jeanette Hayes was still conscious, and she was on 911 with the dispatcher when they arrived. So they're trying to get in as much as they can, but this is a hoarder house. The conditions are just nothing but crap, and they're breaking out every window they can to see if they can see her. They don't see her. They catch dogs on the way. In fact, I think Ford said he threw a German Shepherd over the fence and never came back, So all sorts of stuff's going on. And we make the push, and we end up going in through that side man door and through the garage. And we get there, and I take over the nozzle, which is not normal. And I tell my firefighter, I said, hey, stay in voice contact with me, but go search, see what you can do. Stay in voice contact. And he goes, and he gets about 10 feet away from me. I'm still putting out the kitchen. It's a kitchen fire, and it's ripping. And I put it out, and he goes, hey, I got her. So I get on the radio, said, hey, we found the victim. I said, we need assistance. I said, we're not coming out the way we came in. This is a crap show. I said, I see light. And it was from Ford knocking out. You could see through the smoke, but you could see the sunlight. It's a daytime fire.
Okay.
And I could see the light from the sliding glass door. He broke it out, and I could just see light. I said, we're going out the back door. I said, get me a crew, meet us at the back door, out back. I said, we're pulling the victim there. And so they do. They go, and they goes, and so over the radio, it gets out there. They send the additional crew to the back side of the house, and they go inside. Two guys. It's a dirty because there's so much material. And I'll tell you this, Jay, I never felt this in my life. I'm putting out fire as I'm on my hands and knees, staying below the smoke and everything. I put my hand over, and right at my chest, I feel the kitchen sink, and I feel dishes, and I'm going, how am I feeling the kitchens? I should be on the floor feeling the kitchen sinks at my chest. And I'm like, this is throwing me off, but hey, I'm just going to finish putting this fire out, and we'll figure it out later. They end up dragging her out. They put a, what we call a girth hitch on her. They drug her to the back, out that sliding glass door that had been broken out, and they start performing CPR right there. And,
is she unconscious? She's
unconscious. Okay. She went unconscious during the process.
Got it.
So when Ford got there, she's still alive and on the phone telling her she needs help. And then, so they're just trying their best to do it.
Yeah.
They're eating smoke, and they ate a lot of smoke. So we ended up getting her out, started performing CPR on her. By the time she got from the back of the house to the driveway to put her in the ambulance, in the back of the ambulance, she was talking to us. So we caught her just like that. And we caught her right at the end. And they got her. So she lives for a couple of years. Ford and Hughes, they end up going to the hospital just for smoke inhalation.
Yeah.
Nothing major. So they were fine. Fire gets controlled. We started opening up the bars. There was bars on the front door. We had ventilated it. We made our own hole. They had a truck crew on the top. And we go through this house and we walk through, and there's just nothing but a pathway of about 12 inches running through the house, like a little rat maze.
I was going to tell you this for the folks at home. Here's the problem. We have to go into these homes, folks, and especially a hoarder house. There is newspaper and boxes and clothes, and literally it's hard to get around because we got all this gear on.
Right.
All of that stuff is all ready to burn right now.
Yeah.
Hey, we've had to pull dead bodies out of hoarder houses.
Yeah.
Dude, I had to get a dump truck there one time so we could literally
get to them. We
had to pull out, I mean, just boxes and boxes and boxes and books and newspapers just to get to the bodies. And so to have a fire in one of those, plus, and I know this, you don't even want to touch anything in these houses. Yeah. And the smell of a hoarder's house has a smell that once you smell it, you'll never forget it. Yeah.
So we had smoked this house. I mean, obviously with the amount of fire that we had, it smoked up the entire house. As we're going through the house, so we get her out as we're still fighting, and doing mop up and overhaul and everything else. We pulled out another 7-8 dogs. There's dogs everywhere. We found where they were being, this little room. And so we're out in the front yard, and we got firefighters now putting oxygen on dogs and saving dogs. We had animal control there. But how many dogs does this person have? And so it was crazy. But we ended up being a lot of pets. We saved the dogs and cats. And the biggest thing, I got the news article right here that it shows the big dog, and it's got an oxygen mask on it. But, I didn't care about her. I mean, there's a little picture of her, the rescue, but big picture of the dog we saved. But she ended up living for 2 years. She ended up having no family. Another situation for the viewers out there and listeners is that, hoarders, they segregate themselves. They break ties with their family and everything. We ended up finding his brother. I spoke to her brother. She was a teacher in school district. I mean, the mind just kind of took over. And after she retired from teaching, she never came out of the house. She would have her food delivered at one way in, one way out.
Shut-ins, a lot of them.
Yeah. So, but we were amazed. Talked to the brother, and she said, I haven't talked to her in years. We broke ties, haven't spoke. And I said, well, she was in a fire. We have her in now she's in a skilled nursing facility. And I said, she's here in town if you kind of make. No, they never had any interest to come out here from Texas.
Did she stay in a facility
for 2 years? 2 years she stayed in a facility. She, ended up getting over Sequoia Manor at the time. But yeah, my firefighter, Damian Malik at the time, Ed Wade Benson is my engineer, and we all got recognized. Jared, Dan Ford.
I always liked Malik. He was cool, man.
Yeah.
Is he still here?
No. He retired at 50, just like you did.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. He's in the biz, but he still lives in town here. Great guy. Ended up, he was like her personal angel. I mean, we always went off on duty, and when we were on duty too, we'd go see her, just to say hi and stuff, see how she was doing. Had no family, but she ended up, obviously, the nurses and everything got good care in Sequoia Manor and stuff. So, but anyway, you in a room full of firefighters, you don't see too many firefighters that can say they actually had a rescue and the person survived. Yeah. Normally, about 70% of all victims in fires and stuff like that, if we pull them out, they usually pass pretty soon afterwards, either from the smoke inhalation. Smoke gets them before the heat gets them. Yeah, before fire does. Smoke gets them before fire.
What was it like receiving a proclamation from the city council for that rescue? That must have been cool.
It was cool. We had an interim chief, Greg Glass, at the time, 2008, and he immediately knew that it was a good call, a good rescue. Everybody worked together, did their jobs, and again, we handed off to the crew that was outside, and they performed CPR, got her to life-saving measures, and everybody worked well. So, for the first responders, which were the police officers, it was Jared Hughes, and they're both single units at the time. They both responded to us, to the EMS, to everybody, all getting recognized for, doing a good job and working well together. It was a good thing. So getting a proclamation, it was good, having the families there, letting the community know that, hey, all these agencies work together. That's how when they all work together and it goes well, even a bad situation, we can turn it around and a person comes and a good outcome out of it.
I've often said this. I think our losses get splashed across the paper. Mm-hmm. Our wins very seldom do.
Right. Yep.
And so when something like this happens, I like to see it because I think that we seldom get the recognition that we deserve.
Yep.
And we don't do it for the recognition. We do it for the work, and we do it to save the people.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's always nice to know that others realize the sacrifice and the services that we provide.
Yeah. Just to recognize that, it's a dangerous job, but we do our job right. We do it well, and we could have good outcomes, right? So
big time.
And this is a person that was trapped in her house, and from all the way from the dispatchers giving us all the information we needed to PD to us, going in and stuff like that. Everybody worked well together. So
well, also too, just the fact you're saving those animals. There was a vehicle accident where the victims were burned because help couldn't reach them fast enough. How do you live with calls like that?
Yeah, that was a rough one. That was probably my worst call. That was it's a vehicle accident. It's up in Ivanhoe, 328 and 124, which is, we're right down the street. Our fire station 54 now, station 4 at the time, we get it and we get there, and then as we're responding, we see a header. So knowing a header is just a column of smoke that we see, we know that we've got fire involved because it's putting up some good smoke. So we know that obviously we got a fire involved. We're getting those reports. So we're going to be first on scene. We get there, and as I'm getting off, I'm a firefighter at the time. As I'm getting off, getting hose pulled and everything else, and we get the fire and we know that we got the vehicles in the middle of the intersection, but now they're both on fire. And we have a guy sloughing skin at this time, and sloughing skin meaning he was trying to make a rescue. This is a good Samaritan that was actually diving into the car as it was on fire, trying to pull them out. So he burns himself so bad that his skin is melting off of him. So we end up taking care of him. So we had our engineer at the time get me water, and then he ended up had to take medical care of that one individual. We start ordering resources for him, an extra ambulance, and we needed to know that he was going to go to Fresno to the burn unit. So we ordered him air helicopter at the time, rescue, medical helicopter. So we ordered that up, and then I'm starting to put out the fire. As I'm getting closer and line water and everything else on, I can hear screaming. So I know I've got victims in there. I'm like, man, he never got them out. And so I just hear the screaming and nothing I could do but just get that fire put out. So as I'm extinguishing fire and stuff like that, I can hear the screaming, continues, and then it stops and it just goes silent. And I've got fire out now, and then I'm coming over and getting close, trying to get, now we're thinking we're going to have to use jaws of life or something help. We didn't know if they were trapped or
these not. Are head-on vehicles?
This was head-on, and it just, they met in the middle. Nobody stopped, and they just, and then gas, got going. So got the gasoline going, and now we have fully involved vehicles. So anyway, it was just tough. And then I could see and we had one vehicle, I could see two outlines of two adults, right? And they're severely burned. I mean, at that point, there was no saving them that we could do. And then we had one other in another vehicle. So the second vehicle. So total, as the smoke started clearing and I'm putting out the fire, the total started going up, and I'm getting on the radio, giving the total, like we've got 2 1144s. No, we've got 3, ended up we had 4 1144s or, dead bodies. Yeah. They succumbed to the heat, but there was nothing we can do for them. And unfortunately, but it was just, tough to be in that situation where that you got something going on. I mean, you just can't do anything but do your job and try to make it work.
Well, and I always say this, it's hard when we have to walk away and know that you've done everything, but they didn't make it. But you know this, bro.
Right.
We can't save everybody. And that's not the real world.
Right. So a lot of talking about that one after the call and stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely, we didn't have the peer support teams and the CISM that we have now, critical incident stress management. We didn't have that then. But, going back and talking about it with the crews and the other crews, we debriefed right on scene. We did a hot wash, what we call a hot wash, right on scene, talked to everybody, cops included, everybody, hey, we did as best we could. We're going to get a victim that we saved. We hope this gentleman that was a good Samaritan lives and, able to tell about it. He did good work and, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's how we got through it.
What did that incident teach you about the limitations and reality in emergency response?
You pretty much touched on it. It's just really the limitations and, the fact that no matter what we do, regardless, we get the call. There's just some situations where there's vehicle accidents, people into poles, telephone poles or power poles or something to that effect, that there's sometimes we're just, even though we're called to try to make a difference, we can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the realization hits that you say that as much training as you have, as much as you want to try to make a difference, you can't. We're just faced against calls. And some of those, probably the tougher ones, not so much the adults and everything else, but you said, where the kids. And because that a lot of the guys or responders that you work with and stuff, your peers, they all have families, right? And they all have kids that age or the same age. So, probably the toughest part.
The butane hash oil explosion. What stands out most to you when you think back on that thing?
That was just a lot of a crap show that just kept going and going and going. Came in middle of the night, ended up being reported by a VPD officer. It's over in the area. He's taking a break and he hears an explosion. He looks over and he's not too far from the building that it happened in. He sees the roof leave the building. And I talked to him that night. I go, what did you see? And he goes, dude, I saw the roof leave this building. So he calls it in. He automatically thinks meth lab. So he calls it in as a meth lab. So now it becomes what we call a hazardous materials response for us.
And for the folks at home, we can't go running in there because you could send your lungs permanently.
Yeah.
So
approach is different.
I was going to say, it turns it into a whole other situation.
Yes. Approach is different. So I'm the battalion chief on duty that night and start making all the calls, get that information. With every piece of information, got to make a decision, right? Even though I don't have all the facts, I just got to make a decision like, okay, let's up the alarm to a hazmat start a hazardous unit response, hazardous materials unit response. So I do that. First unit gets there. Roof's not off the building. It's on fire. We see smoke coming out of it. Ends up, they take an initial fire attack on it. As they're rolling up, as they're coming in, it was the weirdest call I've ever got. I'm not there yet. The first unit is there, giving a size up, which is a size up is what he's got. He's visualizing what's on, what type of building, how big, how much fire, all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, he over the radio, he goes, I have one fire victim that is on fire at this time. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding. Person's on fire running. And so, he's running down the street. And so they come in, they approach, they stop. And so they take that approach so that they drop a guy to give medical to that guy. So they drop all the bags and everything else. Driver continues onto the front of the building. The next unit in gives them additional medical support. He starts doing it. Basically, again, this gentleman was on fire. His clothing was on fire, burning, melting to his skin. And his skin was sloughing off. So, and what I did, I had at that time, Jay, I had a dash cam up and I had video of it. Didn't realize that they had already hooked up. And then I call them Beavis and Butthead because these are kids that are young adults that are cooking hash oil. And hash oil was taking all the byproducts of marijuana and taking butane and putting them in a pipe and then smashing all the roots and everything else. And the byproduct would be this oily substance. They would bake it.
All right. So I was going to tell you, he just described it. Yeah. So that's exactly PVC pipe. You put the weed, you put the stems, you put everything. The butane goes in there and it comes out at the bottom. And what comes at the bottom is the oil.
Yeah.
But here's the problem.
Right.
Butane's highly flammable.
Highly flammable. And they didn't know, Beavis and Butthead, didn't know that it's heavier than air. So it sinks. So our ignition sources in a lot of these fires, because we started seeing not only
a lot of the guys they light cigarettes,
but it's the water heaters, the pilot lights.
Oh,
so
that makes sense.
These guys were upstairs and we're in the vicinity where they're cooking it and making it, and the water heater has got the pilot light. Butane's heavier than air, doesn't rise, so it stayed low along the ground. It built up and enclosed, basically, and they have their explosion. So.
One of the guys lives.
Yeah, he got hooked. They both live.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
we
right.
ship one out on him. We get him a bird. We get him a medevac. Get him shipped up to Fresno. The other guy, and I don't remember I had that dash cam on. They'd already hooked him up immediately. I mean, when he came out of the building.
Okay.
Screaming and shouting. He's saying, hey, that's Steven or buddy or whatever.
Yeah,
that's my buddy.
Check this out. This is how everything's so connected.
Yep.
A year later, I'm at court. And different call.
Oh, okay.
I'm just sitting in the lobby at the courthouse waiting to go in, and I'm reading my police report. One of those guys is sitting across from us. And you know when you can just feel that somebody's staring at you?
Yeah.
Like this guy is staring at me. And so I look up once, I look up twice, I look up 3 times. So now we lock eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got somebody sitting next to him, and he's like, these fucking cops.
That dog in
And his face looked like Michael Jackson. I mean, he has like that burn nose.
Okay.
Remember the Michael Jackson had?
Yep.
And so I go, is there a problem? I go, you have a problem? And he goes, no. I go, you do now. And he was like, I just don't like cops. I go, oh, you're the one that burned yourself up making that hash oil, right? And dude, I say this loud, dude.
Yeah.
And everybody, I mean, this is a full lobby.
Yeah.
Everybody comes to quiet.
Yeah.
And he's like, allegedly. And I was like, hey, fool, have you seen your face in the mirror? I go, you burned it off, dude.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's rude. And I was like, I'm not the guy to fuck with, dude. I was like, you need to go down there. I go, just go hide. Yeah. And so he gets up and walks. And so one of the cops goes, he goes, damn, Jay, what was that about? I go, hey, I ain't going to take shit from him.
Yeah.
I go, but the point is this. Everybody who, a lot of people that make hash oil get burned.
Yeah.
I mean, because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So we started seeing it, and from that call, we started seeing it in houses. They're cooking it in their house.
Oh, yeah.
We started seeing it in hotel rooms. We had a hotel fire. Ends up, and you don't know that they're making hash oil yet. They all come in as meth labs at that point, methamphetamine labs. And so they get hazmat responses and all this kind of stuff. But it ends up, they're just cooking the hash oil and, get the explosions for some kind of.
Well, those two idiots they're actually lucky they're alive, dude.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
How did that call change training related to hazardous materials and drug labs?
So, man, these are popping up. And so it was interesting because it was our first in the city of Visalia that I had. And so I said, well, if it's my first, I'm going to start researching this. I'm just curious about this because we came out of that fire, Jay, and we brought cases. And the cases are 12 big, and they're just all these butane canisters. There were thousands of them. Ends up, the follow-up on that is that PD asked us, hey, can you guys go down and check the building down farther? It's a strip mall, right? We said, there's no fire down there. We don't need to go that far. We've got the fire contained to this one building. You sure you can't go down there? And we said, no. We kind of knew what was going on. They go, sure, there's no fire down there. You guys can force an entry. What they were looking for, this guy, they not only were cooking it in this one building, but they had another part of the building where they were actually growing it. It was a marijuana grow. They ended up, we couldn't make exodus circumstances, right? Exodus circumstances, I think is what they call it, right? We couldn't find out that there was a fire in there.
Exigent,
right?
Yeah.
That's what they were calling it. Exigent. No. Hey, breaking into a building that's not on fire is not going to help your cause. Get the search warrant.
Yeah.
And so they did. And so they did, and they stood on it, and sure as heck, about 5 hours later after we all left and everything else, their cargo van, boxcar truck pulls up, and they start loading marijuana, and they caught him red-handed. They let him leave and catch him on the street, and they stop him, and they make the vehicle stop, and they got him. So we started seeing it pop up. What it did for me, personally, as a battalion chief, is that hey, there's got to be more calls out there, and then we had a residential fire from it. We never want to walk into stuff blind, right?
And so you're right. The more information, the better the training.
Yep.
The more you guys are less likely to walk into something and now be exposed when you don't have to be.
Yeah, so ended up taking upon myself, just I wasn't in a training division or anything else, but just go to a class on it. Ended up finding a class up in Northern California, of all counties, Butte County, Humboldt,
Okay.
where the biggest amount of weeds being smoked in the state of California. And their firefighters actually gave this class. And they were, from Butte County, Humboldt City, and everywhere else around there. But they were ones that were running it a ton up there. And they actually had so much of it going on in houses that they actually had pictures. And they just, again, pictures worth 1,000 words, right? They had snow up there and everything else. But you can tell where they had heat lamps in one room because the house is covered with snow except for one portion of it because there's so much heat coming out of the attic space that there was the snow would melt off. So you can see these houses, as they're going down the street. Oh, there's a grow lab. They've got their, everybody had cannabis. And so, but the obviously the outcome of it and the byproduct, what they were making out of it, the hash oil, was becoming the dangerous process because you had everybody going on YouTube and, the internet and going, hey, how do you make hash oil? And you had Beavis and Butthead showing you how to do it, step by step. And then they do it and then they get their face blown up or catch on fire or something stupid. So I brought it upon ourselves just to teach all the firefighters, like, hey, this is going on in America and not only here, but we're starting to see it here in Visalia, but we've had 2 or 3, but you go somewhere where they see it all the time, they have, and then we started seeing it just start popping up, grows everywhere, man. We were working with PD and, we'd be on a fire and go, yeah, smoke clears. And we go, holy crap, whole room has got illegal wiring and everything else and stuff like that. So,
no, and you know what? I would tell you this, that problem is here to stay.
Oh, yeah.
The Shannon Ranch fire involving extreme violence. How do you mentally process a scene like that?
Yeah. So
kind of walk us through what happened.
So, it's a quiet Sunday. That's a quiet Sunday. Get a fire. It comes in as a structure fire with explosion. Well, okay. What's the explosion? It was the water heater or something. Something happened. We don't know. So we just, all respond to it. First alarm gets to it. 3 engines, truck, myself as a BC. And as we are responding, we get more information. There's now burn victims. So now we've got, burn victims. We have person on fire, and burn victim. And okay, copy, start a medevac, let EMS know that we want a medevac started, a helicopter. We'll come up with a landing zone, as soon as we get on scene, right? We'll come up with that. So all those things are going through my mind. Not only, as crews are responding still to put that fire out, we're still thinking about the next steps because we've got that burn victim. We need to get out of there. So roll up on scene. First engine, Shannon Ranch, comes from the north side of Visalia, northwest. And it's engine 54, and basically responding right behind the engine on that one, because we're both in quarters at the time. And we both get there, and not much fire. We do have fire coming out of the front of the house. They make an approach and an attack, and it's from the front yard because the front window had blown out and got fire showing from the front of the house. And so they start putting it out. They go inside. We know we have a victim, so we have to put fire out, get in there and get the victim. We don't know where the victim's at. Victims, they get initial fire knocked down, make the entrance into the house. They get the victim off the couch, and she's the burn victim. I look over to my right. I set up my command post, my SUV across the street. I look over, I'm 2 houses over, and I see a guy bent over, and he's got his head covered, and he's squatted down, and like, what's that? And I'm like, hey, I tell PD, I say, hey, check out. We start getting information. The kids roll up. They're teenagers, her son's around the corner, and he rolls up and starts running towards the fire and, for the house and stuff like that. And like, whoa, stand back, man. We had to take care. Who are you? I'm her son. That's my mom. Okay. All right. So we start figuring all that out. We keep him outside, ask him some questions, and PD stops him. And he goes, well, he's the one that started it. They look down, and it's that one guy I had pointed out. He didn't run or anything because I would have watched him. I would have known a guy running away from the scene. He just sat there the whole time. And we find out he was the one that poured it on her. So what he had done, I'd gone in. They were having a fight. Kids had gone somewhere. They would go into their friend's house and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden he comes back after their fight and puts it in a solo cup and makes her drink it.
Gasoline. Okay.
Gasoline, and pours the rest of it on her, and then dumps the gas can, and it was the gas, and then starts her on fire. it was the gas can that exploded. That was our explosion. Ended up after we put out fire, looked at the walls and everything else. It blew the walls off the studs and it exploded in the hallway. So it was just a small gallon gas can, but it was enough to, have that explosion.
Did she live?
She lived.
Okay,
yeah, she lived to tell about it.
Jesus.
Yeah. She had met him. She was a nurse in a prison. I think it was Corcoran, where they had the hospital, and they had met in SADF, so the substance abuse treatment facility. And so he was obviously in SADF himself, in prison, and that's where they met. I mean, as far as their background or history, I didn't know anything about that. But yeah, she ended up burned her ears off, and she had to testify later, obviously. But yeah, it was just a crazy call. We ended up landing the bird, what we call the bird, but the helicopter medevac. We commandeered. We had cops, which was great, working with everybody, right? And I said, hey, I need multiple PDs. Give me everything you got. Have them cordon off me an area of the parking lot to land a helicopter. I said that was probably our closest part. So we went to Demery and Reagan, and we said, I just need the biggest piece of asphalt that I can find, and that was the closest one. So
I would tell you something, man. ATF was up in like Three Rivers. They're looking for a big grow up there.
Okay.
And they're up there in a Blackhawk, and a dude falls out of the back of that Blackhawk about 300 feet up. And so I didn't know this, but a Blackhawk is too heavy to land at Sequoia Delta on that pad. It's too heavy. So they have us block off that whole intersection right there.
Okay.
Mineral King and the Locust.
Okay. Downtown.
Dude.
Yeah.
So we see this Blackhawk coming in. And, I remember looking at my buddy and I was like, hey, dude, this is a hot LZ, bro.
Right.
Dude, and it's a female pilot, dude, but she lands right there in the middle of that intersection.
Right yeah.
Hey, leaves it running.
Yep.
Jumps out. She's got this badass tactical suit on and she's got this machine gun strapped to her chest. She goes, watch my bird. And dude, on a scale from 1 to 10, she was a 12, dude.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, holy crap. She goes in there to the hospital. I don't know what she says. She comes back 3 minutes later. And I said, hey, how is he? And she's like, yeah, he didn't make it. Dude, she gets in that thing, spins it up, and flies off. Dude, one of the coolest thing I've ever watched. But dude, I mean, that's what people don't realize. I mean, we get a front row seat to this stuff.
Sure.
But it's normally a lot of crazy stuff, man. And to this day, how do calls involving intentional human cruelty affect first responders differently?
I think the intentional cruelty is, like I said, it's different with the kids. When you've got parents that intentionally cruel, they're intentionally cruel to their kids. And whether they've, we had parents that have burned their kids in bathtubs and didn't have a whim about it. And we're going, what is going on? And really, from a standpoint, psychologically, mentally, where were they at? We don't know. So from our standpoint, it's tougher with, when there's cruelty and it involves either, I can say this, animals. I mean, a lot of guys have dogs and pets and everything else. Yeah. But when it's cruelty to animals and cruelty to kids, it's a little bit different, right? When it's to each other.
Old people.
Old people.
Oh,
right?
Dude.
Yeah.
I tell you something.
Sure.
I've walked into scenes
Yeah.
and literally I have had to hold cops back from doing some mayhem on people.
Yep.
I've had to walk away before I did something that was probably going to put me in jeopardy.
Right.
Because when you're looking in the eyes of pure evil, there was something about me, man, that I would meet these people. I would normally take it to a level they never thought it would go to.
Right.
And that was hard. And it's hard to do, man. And, because we can't break down at the scene, but dude, there are evil people in this world.
Yeah.
And which call or calls still visit you to this day when things are quiet? I have about a half a dozen of them, bro, that every morning one of them will pop in my brain.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, obviously the fire one. I mean, listening to people, tragically perish. I mean, while they're on fire. There's other calls. We've ran some of the ones that were calls that, the weirdest call I had was as a volunteer up when I was up in Delta Fire District up in San Joaquin County. Whole family coming back from a visit. They were visiting. We find out they were visiting Bay Area, so they were in Oakland, San Francisco area. Coming back from it, and they end up. There was a water truck that had basically ran out of gas, but on the back of the water truck, he had a trough, and it stuck out basically. And this family did not even see because they were tired. The dad was driving, mom's right next to him, and then the 3 kids are in the back. And dad just runs right into the trough at 70 miles an hour. He doesn't see this truck and sees it too late. Thinks it's moving. Probably his lights hit the reflection of the back of the lights and stuff. So he thinks it's moving. It's dead stopped in lane. And so ends up, that was a call that stayed with me forever, only because, on one side looked normal. Other side, he's got a trough that is split him in half. Right. And then in the back seat, there were the kids. They weren't properly seatbelted. One, I ended up pulling from underneath the seat of the driver's side, and ended up having the same name as my son at the time. So kind of an eerie connection, right? And it was
kid make it?
Yeah, kid never make it. All 5 perished. Everybody died.
Okay.
Yep. Point of impact. I mean, they hit this water truck and nobody survived, So yeah, just those kind of calls. And I think I have that one. And, I just think about them and it's like, what we could have done again, couldn't have done anything. The circumstances were different. We didn't know about this truck that ran out of gas, and then all of a sudden this car just plows it at 70 miles an hour.
I know.
And, it's just weird things happen. But it really, try not to think about them too much. I mean, just from the standpoint of they were calls that I think, and I surpassed them by saying that I did whatever I could do, I did. But there were some things that are just the things that the babies that were, intentionally cruel, drowned in the bathtub and stuff like that. Those kind of calls.
I'm going to get to that right now, dude.
It's craziness.
The double drowning in 2013 was a turning point for critical incident stress management. Can you explain what happened and then tell us why?
Okay. So call comes in, battalion chief on duty. They comes in as a drowning, turns into started out as a child drowning in a backyard pool. Ends up there is now 2 people in the pool. So as we're getting updates and stuff like that. So engine company is responding. The confusion came in when it came into there's multiple reports and they're all coming from the family. So the family had gone out. They had left the grandmother and the grandson at home together, and she was going to watch him while the rest of the family had gone out. I think they, don't know what they went to do, but the rest of the family had left. They come back, they discover him in the backyard pool. Because of the fact that they were frantic and everything else, they gave the wrong address. They transposed their numbers to their address. It was either 1825 and it became 1852. Well, PD gets there. They're in front of our engine and EMS. So we have an engine, EMS plus PD all responding to it, multiple units. And PD gets that wrong address. They're down the street. They're up the street from it, 1852. They're kicking the fence in, and it's the wrong address. And now they get the right address, and so they leave that house and bolt down to the right address. They're about 3 or 4 houses up from it, and then they discover the grandmother and the grandson in the back of the yard of the pool. Our guys get there. We ended up diving in, getting them out, bringing them out, both in bathing suits. Didn't look like there was no floaties or anything on the baby. The guys started working them. I get there. I go, because the fact that there was confusion, it was from our dispatcher. She kept calling, it was Jacques, Jacquez. Jacquez could be called in French, but it's that street that's on the west side. And she called it Jackie's. We had Jack's. It had been called all this. And there is a Jackie Street inside of Visalia too.
Yes, there is.
So we made sure that it was not a house on Jackie. So we had a crew hear that and go, hey, we're going to stage just to make sure the address is correct. We knew that the primary unit, they had the correct address to it. They had it on their MDC, so they knew where they were going in. But the rest of us are getting all this radio traffic that made it very, very much, very confusing. So ends up going, respond to it, and crews doing everything they can with EMS PD's there, taking care of the family. Family was the biggest part. I mean, a larger family came home. So, there was
everyone's going ballistic
and screaming and trying to calm them down and stuff. And there was nothing we could do. We ended up transporting. The best thing you can do on something like that is load and go, right? We don't know what the downtime was. We didn't know anything. So life-saving measures off the scene. Let's get off of the scene because of the, everything on around us. And then we'll, do what we can. So they did it in the back of the ambulances and stuff. We had multiple ambulances. So one for each victim because we knew they were going to be, they were full codes and stuff. So everybody gets off. Unfortunately, they didn't make it. They were down before. And there's nothing, no life-saving measures that we could have done that was going to save them, not the water. And now it becomes a crime scene. So now PD changes the mode of it, calms everybody down, starts asking questions, right? Like what was going on here? And, why were they here by themselves and blah, blah, blah. Did you have any medical conditions? We're all asking that kind of stuff. And just didn't know what happened really, but we think that they were just out there swimming and maybe the baby didn't know how to, swim fully. She's out there with them and she has a medical emergency. Then, goes into a code and then drowns and starts drowning and then the baby goes afterwards. So
Got it.
That was the best we could come up with it. The back part of that was that because it was so stressful and everything else involved PD, the dispatchers, there was multiple dispatchers, call takers, the dispatcher dispatching it, and everything. So I made it a point to say, this one's a big one. We got to get some critical incident stress here. We got to stop and debrief this. So we ended up making sure that everybody could do it on it was a couple days afterwards. It was 1 or 2 days after the incident where everybody was together again and just got them in one room. And then we brought in some professionals. We got with Tulare County Mental Health, brought in a professional psychologist, just to kind of open it up, third party, not people that they didn't know, and just to try to get the talking.
I'll tell you something, dude. I've been to 3 of them, and one of them hit really close to home because it was one of our partners. And, dude, we're trying to do a critical debrief on this thing, dude, and there is not a dry eye in the room, dude. And I'm a pretty hard dude, man, but dude, even thinking about it right now, I get upset. And you just think some of the stuff that we've seen, bro, it'll be with us until the day we die.
Yep.
And it's not good, it's not right, but it is what it is, and I remember the dispatcher saying, how she's hearing all this stuff over the radio or over the phone, and I felt so bad for her. Yeah. But almost selfishly, I was like, think about what we saw when we went into that place, bro. I mean, this rocked the PD, right? This hit us right where we live and breathe, bro.
Yeah.
And nobody was the same after it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't even go into it, and I'll never go into it here because I think the family deserves that. But thinking about it, my daughter was the same age about when this was all going down with this victim. And, dude, it rocked us. And we're sitting around this table, and some of the hardest men that I've ever worked with, dude, are crying. Dispatchers crying. I'm crying. Dude, even the mental health people are upset, dude. So I agree. I think we should do more critical debriefs. I think we should do stress management because I think sometimes it's just good to get it off your chest.
You do.
And, and I love the fact that they do include the dispatchers.
Yeah.
I just talked to a dispatcher who had just retired, and I was there, and there were some other dispatchers, and we were
Pam.
talking. Yeah, Pam.
Yeah.
And there were some other dispatchers there, and one of them said to me, she goes, Jay, I have serious PTSD because of this job. And I totally, I go, I have no doubt. I go, I have no doubt. I go, listen, girl, the stuff that they have to hear over the radio. Or over the phone, and then transpose it to us. Dude, it's toxic, bro. And,
it's tough.
Why is critical incident stress management still misunderstood in public safety? Because I've heard some people like, I don't want to do that kumbaya. And I'm like, hey, bro, be careful saying that.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. I think it's just the fact that, it's regardless, it's PD, fire, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They have big egos and stuff. People that, got to be tough.
It
right.
is.
And so, yeah, but I think that, it's a changing world, man. I think that, there's a lot more stuff that we're seeing, and it's not getting any better. It's still going to be a job where you see bad stuff. You're going to see you're going to run bad calls. You're going to see bad stuff. There's going to be situations you can't do anything to make the situation any better. Right. So, I think you really just got to drop the egos, man. You just got to,
I agree.
To talk about it.
I agree.
It's not the kumbaya stuff. People but I guarantee you, if somebody's talking about it, they're going to feel a little bit better versus somebody that doesn't, or they internalize it and then they take it home and they get off duty and they drink about it and they, and they don't talk to anybody. It turns into something serious, more serious, right?
I totally agree.
So you don't want to see them go down that path.
How has mental health support evolved since you very first started your career? Because back when you started, there was no mental health. There wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot of, and seeing it in PD now. Hell, we even got caseworkers and mental health workers, crisis, as you guys call them on the air, right? Working side by side with PD on calls, right? We're starting to see a lot more calls come in that are crisis related and mental illness or mental wellness is involved, meaning there's a problem with somebody's mental wellness. They're mentally ill. And it could be a family. It could be, husband, wife, family. Some of the kids. We're starting to see. I
a
will
lot
tell
of
you
that
this,
with kids
bro.
now.
Mental health.
Yeah.
And I'm
Big
going to
deal.
go out on a limb here and say it's probably more than 50%, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, and then, then you factor in all the homeless calls.
Right.
A lot of those people are dealing with mental health issues,
Yep.
not taking psychotropic medication, self-medicating with illegal street drugs.
Right.
And it's turning into a situation.
Yep. It's just crazy.
What advice would you give a younger firefighter about emotional survival?
Don't be afraid to talk about it. That's what I'd give them. Is that, man, open up. If you've got a call or something that's bugging in, it may not be the same. We could go to the same call and you may, it may react to you differently than it does to me, right? Don't be afraid to talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, we all see something different. We all, take something away from a call or a bad call, and we may look at, the scene or the way the children are sitting or something, the age or something like that, and we have to just be afraid, not to be afraid to talk about it, because we all have kids, we all have families, but again, just not opening up a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to pour your heart out or do whatever, but just being able to talk about it over a cup of coffee. And if you do it in private, that's fine too. But talk to someone versus taking it home with you and letting it get the best of you.
I agree.
That's it.
What signs of burnout or trauma should leaders watch for?
I think it happens a lot. Burnout really is just a matter of, their attitude. You can see a person's attitude change.
Yeah.
Whether they go, like you said, are they doing rogue things? Are they not giving a crap about their job anymore? Are they, not paying attention to detail, pencil whipping, reports, or doing something that they're not normally, it's not normal. So as leaders, you should all pay attention to that.
You know what, me and the guys, what we key on? I would key on a guy's appearance.
Okay.
Dude.
Yeah.
You could just tell, dude quit cutting his hair.
Yep.
Doesn't shave.
Right.
Uniform looks like shit.
Yep.
I used to be like, something's going on here, dude.
Exactly.
And, and unfortunately, I think a lot of the bosses should be pulling these people in and finding out, but everyone's like this. I don't want to deal with it, and it's not good, dude.
Yeah, no, a good boss needs to, and I kind of pride myself on that. And the fact is that being able to have that difficult conversation,
yeah,
right? And regardless of that, if it's just a one-on-one with the person, but you're starting to see it, not be afraid to talk to them and let it keep going and progressing. I just had I was a BC. Had an engineer, but he's gone through multiple divorces, and his first one was rough. Second one was even rougher, involved kids and everything else. And he just started sliding. He was going down a bad path and stuff. And I had some conversations. They were difficult conversations, but they needed to be had.
Yeah.
Regardless, at least he talked about them, because it was somebody like, hey, dude, I'm seeing this. If it continues that from a battalion chief standpoint, I don't want to have to discipline you, but you're going to get disciplined, because I can't have you out there, and I don't need you here, because if you're not here mentally and you're here physically, but you're not here mentally, you're going to get yourself or somebody else hurt.
I
And
totally
I don't want you to
agree.
go on the next call that you're going to get that last call of the shift and your mind's not in the game and you freeze up or your mind's somewhere else. I said, if you got stuff going on at home, let us get you the resources. And now we've got EAP, the employee assistance program. We've got all these things. We got apps now that can help, that we're using. Both PD and Fire now are using, the application, Lighthouse, and those applications where they can do it. They can reach out to somebody. And as long as you're reaching out to somebody, I don't care if you're doing it privately or not, but reach out to somebody and talk about it.
I've often said this is show business. This ain't show friends.
Yeah.
And you know what, dude, there's sometimes, dude, like even me, I wasn't a supervisor, but I was really quick to be like, hey man, get your shit together, Holmes.
Squared up, yeah.
Because guess what, dude? I can give you a little bit of time, but dude, we're getting ready to go into this other thing, man.
Right.
And I need you here with me, brother.
Yeah. Yep.
How did you personally decompress after difficult calls?
Get off duty again, family time. I was busy off duty with my kids. I coached a lot. Yeah, a lot of that helped. I mean, I just stayed busy, active. With kids, my own kids and stuff like that, on my days off. And we had some that got really, hell, they got trades and everything else to do that. I didn't as much. I worked around my work schedule and then, became an off-duty, coach or whatever. But I think that really helped, decompressing, family stuff, getting home and, obviously talking to my wife. She's in the business of, seeing bad people and dealing with patients and doctors and family members, in a room like this, smaller than this that, was harder for her, kind of thing. So I really was just, talking to people. Talking to my wife and, the kids, staying busy with them and stuff.
What role does peer support play in long-term resilience?
I think you started early and it continues for the long haul. Peer support, if you started earlier in your career and you have at least a peer support team like we do here in our department, I think if you utilize it, if you never have to utilize it, that's great. But at least if you started early, get it organized, get the individuals that want to be part of that, that you can pick out. You handpicking your people on that. But they're good people. They can hear, they can listen well. They're active listeners, and they can talk and listen to somebody and just they can connect, right?
Correct.
They can connect, right? I think that's get it started early. So if you do need it anywhere in that 30-year career, because you're in a 30-year career, if you ever have to use it, reach out and use it. I think it's just
I agree.
Early. Yeah, but know it's there.
The downtown fires in 2018 and 2022 reshaped the city. What lessons came from those after action reviews?
Let's see the lessons on that one. I think the 2018 going back, that's the Mama K's fire. That was a restaurant that was downtown. It was December 26th. I used to
love that place.
Yeah, breakfast, great breakfast. They've reopened. They're back open at a different location. But that fire started. Cafe 225 is right next. 225 is right next door to them. They had a nice Christmas dinner that night, and everything was fine. Closed up, and Carl Merton, went home. He was the chef at 225, and ends up. We get it at about 12:30, I think around 12 o'clock, midnight. It's PDs out there. They get it as a smoke check. The downtown unit is close. So he goes, hey, I'll, check it out too. Goes downtown. He's out of his unit. He's walking the beat, walking the businesses.
What started that fire?
That one we think started in the attic somewhere. So we don't know if it was actually a burner left on or if it was grease that actually stayed hot and got ignited that was in the attic space, and then it spread from there. Yeah. But it got up above the kitchen area. It was the point of origin, it's the kitchen area.
Well, plus, dude, I had to go up there. Those old buildings that were above there.
Right.
Dude, you had wood up there from like the 1920s, dude. I bet you that stuff went up like
kindling. Yeah. It was just like kindling. So, so that was our fire there. It started in the attic, it came in as a smoke check, so only one engine to go out there. And it happened to be Damian Malik was the captain downtown. And it's his fire, and he sees black smoke coming, and the windows are blacked out in Mama K's. And he ends up going, oh, dude, and it's hot. They open the door, and it just starts taking off, and they start feeding it. It ends up, I think Curtis Brown was on duty that night. Sergeant Brown was on. He ends up going to the parking structure. He's got body cam of it, and he's got fire as it lit up that attic space. Our truck company ended up going to the roof, cutting a hole. And then as they're coming off the roof, the entire roof fails. It falls in. And they just barely get to the parapet and get off that roof. Otherwise, they would have been 3 firefighters that would have been inside that building. And so it would have been bad. So that was their close call. But we get off that building, turns into a defensive fire. And yeah, we burned 3 businesses, stop it at the brick building. That was our fortunate one there. And then the other one had the last building that it stopped at had Phoenix coating on the roof. And so we were able to make a stop with it. It was like a pet store. And then we had a jewelry store. And so we had all these things, and we ended up making a stop in that one, putting units above it, making sure that the fire, as it came to them, they were able to stop it as it was rolling.
And then was the other one the
other one was the Alejandro's.
Alejandro's.
Yeah,
and that was a homeless guy that set that one on fire.
Homeless gentleman on that one. It started the fire earlier in that day. It went unreported, and the garbage can melted. So the embers from that fire, because it never got any water put on it or anything, we think embers from that fire actually were in the attic. He started a second dumpster fire. That was what our crew went on, put out, extinguished. He had started multiple. He was on the back alley. So they have cameras. Some businesses did, some didn't, but they had them in the back alley also, where they take their trash out, where they have, some of their stuff. And so we got video of this guy just going down that alley and lighting fires. And so he lit 2 and ends up, they put out that dumpster fire, the second dumpster fire that came in, because the first one was an unreported fire. And they go home, and they come back an hour later, and there's fire ripping in the attic. And now it's in Alejandro's. They figured out, they business, you can't even tell. It's business is normal.
Dude, it gutted that thing, dude.
It just ended up taking off. And then, what happens is, we get those fires, we get everybody out, make sure there's no life, before we save the property. But the property at that point is gone. So we put up the big sticks. Our chief was out of town. He's watching it on Facebook Live as he's coming home. And I get the call, I hear it, I come back. I report downtown and say, hey, whatever we need, we needed some logistics by that time, some things. So I ended up helping the incident commander. Incident commander, great guy, Nick Branch, that ended up was that in charge of that fire. I look over at him, and he's across the street, and it's about 8:00, 9:00. The fire had been going for like 5 hours. I said, dude, you okay? I just walk up to his window. I go, you okay? And look at him. He just looks beat. This I've sunken feeling. He's in the chair. I don't know. I think he melted to the front seat. I couldn't pull him out if I needed to, but he just felt so bad about that fire, watching that thing burn. Took up 3 businesses.
Well, all those old buildings, they're going to go up.
Well, they do. It's an old downtown, unreinforced masonry, common attic spaces.
Yeah.
They're all connected. So when you get a fire in one attic, it goes like wildfire. Yeah. Got to get 2 or 3 businesses ahead of it. So,
how has technology like helmet cams and body cams changed firefighting?
It's good and bad. I'd say it's good and bad.
Yeah.
I think there's good things to it. I mean, from your standpoint, PD body cam, right? Just shows the whole scene. They don't take media, like you said. We never get the full story, but you only get 10 seconds of the whole hour incident that was going on before that. They only take that 10-second blurb out that shows something bad happening. Same thing with us. We have the helmet cams, and from the good standpoint, it shows what the business that we do, and you can show a cool fire, and it's almost like a retention tool in recruiting, right? Social media can be used for that cool, fact that the guy has a helmet cam, has it in the rig, can show them responding to a fire that's got a good, header showing. Then he puts it on and it walks through. From a training standpoint, it's good from that standpoint too, because you can get some valuable information that you can take back after the call that somebody did not see that was on another unit, but then, they may have had a close call and they want to show somebody else. You can train some other people from it, right, with video. The bad part of it is it gets somebody out there uses it for the wrong reason, for the wrong time, at the wrong time for the wrong reason. And it gets spread out. News gets a hold of it somehow and then turns it and flips it. And now all of a sudden it's a real bad thing. It's used against you in the court of law, and because it's evidence, right? Yeah. Anything that we videotape, we record, we audio tape, doesn't matter. We take audio, video, anything we write down is all subject to the court of law, right? The
Big
Right
time.
to Know Act.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with it. And that's the bad part. We've seen some people that have used it in a bad way, that they've taken pictures of people that are deceased or something.
Oh, yeah.
Or, and I'll give you an example from myself. We were using Twitter to do it. We didn't want to get it in the Facebook world because we didn't want to have to keep up with arguments of people. The call that happened 5 years ago, they can go back and say one comment and it wraps it up again.
Yeah.
It brings it all up again 5 years later. So we got into Twitter, where you could just get 140 characters of, what happened, based on, state the facts and only the facts. So we got into that business, and I was one time where I'm at a vehicle rollover. Guys are actually doing their job, stabilizing it, and they're actually going to take a door off. I had taken a picture. It got out that, and they're working, right? So I'm a BC of it, but not intimately involved with the call. I'm standing back, just making sure everything's going well. So taking a picture of their good work, right? And comes back to me that, hey, we want to take pictures of cars. The victim's still in there. They couldn't see the victim because we did the Zoom test on it. But you still don't want that to come back and hurt you in a court of law or something like that. It could have been the parents that hadn't been notified yet.
Yeah.
Their daughter, their family member, whoever it may be, involved in a vehicle accident, and they've recognized the car from social media. So it can be bad from that standpoint because it's immediate intention to it. Now, we got so much stringer out there now beating us to calls. They're actually beating us to calls because there's scanner junkies out there that are listening, and they're getting pictures before we even get there on scene first, and to take care of the call. So they put it out there before. We've only had a few incidents as local, photographers, stringers, whatever you want to call them, where they've actually, head-on collisions, and they've gotten too close and showed faces of the victims.
Yeah.
Hey, time out.
Yeah.
We don't want to show that. I mean, you guys got to be more professional about that. You're
I
not
tell you
showing
what, man,
the gore of this call. Can be really
back
bad.
when I started, man, especially when cell phones, man, there were dudes that started taking pictures of gruesome stuff, and I said, "Don't do that, dude.
Yeah.
It's going to come back and bite."
Yep. You got to be careful.
When you look back, what are you most proud of?
I said it in my final tone out and stuff like that. To live a legacy, the legacy you got to leave is to positively impact someone's life.
Got it.
Robert Herod said that, and I use that quote is that I think that was kind of the legacy I wanted to leave with not only my peers, people I worked with, men and women that I worked with, but also with the community. Knowing that Visalia Fire has been here for forever and will continue to be here forever. When it started in 1869, they started it very slow and it's slowly progressed to where it's at. I want to say that within my 30 years, my career, that I left something that made it better than it was when I first started, right? It's try to make it better. People are smarter. People are safer. We got better equipment. We've got the technology to use to make our job easier, that kind of stuff. I think that's what I'm most proud of, is just to leave that kind of positive impact on not only the people I worked with, but the community we served.
What regrets, if any, do you have?
Really don't have any regrets. I from a standpoint of calls, doing something different. Yeah, there's a ton of those, but none that stand out to where I put myself in a bad spot and I couldn't get out of it, or just I learned from it. We've all had those, incidents where, I'll never do that again. Store that one for the bank, back here. And, that'll be just part of the thing. So I really don't have any regrets from it because, like I said, I tried to do my best at all times. And if I didn't do my best, I turned it around to the point where I either got better trained myself to make myself better in that area, or, not let it happen again. So I think that's why I have no regrets.
Got it.
Is that, I turned the negative into the positive, really.
Got it.
That was what it was all about.
Well, brother, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I'll leave you, the folks with a quote. Firefighters go where they're needed, not where it's safe. And, from me to you personally, I've always liked you. I like your family. I wish you guys nothing but just health and happiness and success. You did make the fire service better. I think have always been one of my favorite fire guys. And I just hope you live to be a ripe old age, brother. You deserve it. You're a good man.
Thank you.
And before we sign off, would you like to say anything?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to bring me here. First firefighter, first of the year, as my son's saying right now, new me, new you kind of thing, new year, new me. But I think the job's great. And like I said, I think it's just, there's going to be some times where it gets tough and people just need to know that they've got outlets out there. So use them, whether it's an app, whether it's another buddy or in your crew or something, but you got to lean on people because this job can eat you up,
It can.
and you see a lot of stuff, right? So I think that's really is take care of each other and yourself mentally, physically, and you can get through a good career. 30 years is a long time. You guys are, busting and doing everything else that you guys do. So appreciate everything you've done and what you're doing now with this podcast and everything else and bringing it out
Thank
there.
you, brother.
So,
well, folks, we'll go ahead and sign off. I'll have a new guest next week. Again, reach out if you guys have a guest that wants to come on. I'd love to hear their story. And with that, I'll leave you with good luck, God bless, and Godspeed. Thank you.